As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Are authorities, are communities doing all they can to combat violent crime? With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Rishi Sunak pledges to fulfil the promises of the Good Friday Agreement in Northern Ireland.
Good morning to you. It's 6 o'clock on Easter Sunday, the 9th of April. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Ellie. These are your top stories.
The Prime Minister is preparing to welcome President Joe Biden in Belfast later this week as he seeks to secure a better future for Northern Ireland. The commemorations come amid a heightened terror threat in the country, with police remaining on high alert.
The King, the Queen and senior royals due to gather at Windsor Castle for the first Easter Sunday service of the Carolean reign. The service is also expected to honour the late Queen, with this Easter Sunday service the first to take place since her death.
And Easter Sunday wouldn't be Easter without chocolate. And we have got a treat for you this morning. We're going to meet an artisan chocolatier who's here to share her sweet secrets of success.
Now, is that, though, in the pictures there, is that dark chocolate or milk chocolate?
I would say milk. What do you think?
I don't know, it looked quite dark.
But
See, I like dark chocolate, but for a little treat, you want a bit of milk chocolate.
Just love this, just all the eggs. Let us know what kind of eggs you've got at home. How many are you going to try and get through today? I've got a lovely one from Stephen.
Yes, I did bought you a nice egg.
Got a really fancy egg. It was lovely.
There you go.
My one I got you wasn't quite as fancy.
It'll still be very tasty.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
Let us know your plans for Easter Sunday. What are you up to? Are you with family? Are you off celebrating? Let us know. gbnews@gbnews.uk. To our top story now, and Rishi Sunak is continuing his preparations for the visit of Joe Biden in Northern Ireland to mark 25 years since the Good Friday Agreement.
Well, the Prime Minister is planning on using the President's visit to drum up long-term investment for the nation and improve business relations.
Well, despite the optimism, the police service of Northern Ireland has warned of the potential of dissident Republicans launching attacks on police officers in Londonderry on Easter Monday.
Well, let's talk to political commentator Peter Spencer, who joins us now. Morning to you, Peter. Look,
good morning.
There's no underestimating how significant this visit is going to be on Tuesday, the commemorations tomorrow. And yet it is all happening under a significant political shadow, isn't it?
It most certainly is. Tony Blair and his crowd, including, of course, Senator Mitchell, the American senator who chaired all the talks that led to it, really did go the extra mile. I was up to my eyeballs at the time, and I watched these guys sweating blood to make it all happen, but it did. But what we're looking at now is a situation where there is a heightened terror alert, and that is because the Northern Ireland Assembly is not up and running. If it were, then we'd have a situation where the Sinn Féin, which is, of course, the closest alignment to the Republican dissidents, would be in charge. And if it were up and running, what that would mean is that the Irish Republican dissidents would be effectively a rebel without a cause. Why has this situation arisen? Because of Brexit, which Rishi Sunak backed, and which Boris Johnson, certainly in Northern Ireland terms, bodged. And the upshot of all that is that the trading arrangements are still very much up for grabs. Now, Rishi Sunak has gone to a great deal of trouble to get a new system in place, the so-called green lanes, to enable trade to flow freely between mainland Britain and the north of Ireland. But it's clearly the deal, the so-called Windsor framework, was not good enough for the Democratic Unionist Party, and so we have this continued interregnum within Northern Ireland, which is why the tensions do remain.
Yes, of course. I mean, there is the threat of violence, very sadly, at this anniversary.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's a huge police operation to make sure it doesn't happen. But I come back to it. If the Northern Ireland Assembly were functioning properly, then these guys would be effectively a rebel without a cause, because Sinn Féin would be in charge of the show. But the Northern Ireland Assembly is not running because the DUP, the Democratic Unionist Party, did not buy into the Windsor framework, which Rishi Sunak went to so much trouble to set up. And so they might at some later point come round, but that was the real prize that Rishi Sunak so much wanted to see, that at that point he could have said, OK, job done, sorted. But as it is still in a state of flux, and the unhappiness does remain.
What about the sort of sword of Damocles in all of this, Peter? Chris Heaton-Harris, the Northern Ireland Secretary, could trigger another Assembly election in Northern Ireland. I mean, that could be significant, couldn't it? Depending on how the people of Northern Ireland feel. But if they're fed up of not having a working executive, well, that could prove to be politically painful for the DUP.
It could. I mean, that's an interesting speculation, and that's a calculation that he would have to make, and it is a high-risk calculation. I mean, in actual fact, when Rishi Sunak had set up his and got the agreement with the government of the Republic of Ireland and in the Republic of Ireland and with the European Union, this new set of arrangements, that Rishi Sunak then put it to a vote in the House of Commons. And I think his strategy at that point was to try to sort of biff the Democratic Unionists into going along with it. That particular gamble, if you like, did not pay off. If they were to have further elections in Northern Ireland, again, it would be risky. I mean, already Sinn Féin is the largest party within Northern Ireland, but I mean, it's worth remembering that the current fear is of dissident Republicans, but there would also be the danger of an upsurge of violence on the part of dissident unionists. So although we've had this so-called peace for the last 25 years, and that's brilliant from the point of view of young people in Northern Ireland, problem solved, that shadow does overhang. And this is a legacy that goes back to the effectively ethnic cleansing, which was the policy of British monarchs in the Tudor times. And I mean, there's something of the Balkans about the north of Ireland. You've got sort of different groups of people who are lumped together, who don't actually particularly want to be lumped together. And so even though, as I say, there's a whole new generation of people in Northern Ireland who weren't even born when the Troubles were going on, the undercurrent does remain, and there's a residue of hatred. There's no getting around it.
And Peter, what do you think we can expect from President Joe Biden when he visits Belfast to start with on Tuesday? He has been very outspoken about what he thinks about Brexit and his thoughts too on a divided island of Ireland.
Yes, I mean, Brexit clearly has done Northern Ireland no favours whatever, and Joe Biden is right to point that up. What is that? I mean, because it's worth remembering where the Americans fit into all this. Joe Biden himself is of Northern Ireland, of Irish descent, although he jokingly said a few days ago how he wasn't a real Irishman because he doesn't actually drink. But if you go back again with the history and the time of the potato famine of the 1840s, the line at the time was, "It's the new world or the next." 1 million people died, and 1 million people fled mostly to America. And of course, they were mostly Catholics, and which is why there is such a large slice of the American population which either has or claims Irish descent. And indeed, during the Troubles, a great deal of money was raised in America for the IRA. And you go back still further, and Eamon de Valera, who was the first sort of the guy that was running the Irish Free State, which became the Irish Republic eventually. He did a lot of his campaigning in America, so the ties there are absolutely intimate and absolutely they cannot be pulled apart.
OK, Peter, for now, thanks very much indeed. Appreciate that. It is 9 minutes past 6. Let's bring you up to date with what else is going on today.
And the NHS's National Medical Director has warned patients face unparalleled levels of disruption when junior doctors start a 4-day strike on Tuesday. Professor Stephen Powers says he's very concerned with hospitals facing nearly 100 hours without up to half of their medical workforce. The NHS Confederation says 250,000 appointments could be postponed.
The mum of Olivia Pratt-Korbel has told the Sunday Mirror the law should be changed to force all criminals to attend their sentencing. Cheryl Korbel has spoken out after her daughter's killer, Thomas Cashman, refused to appear in the dock as he was jailed for a minimum of 42 years.
The Prime Minister says Christian values of tolerance, compassion and charity are part of the British fabric. In his Easter message, Rishi Sunak also said Easter Sunday gives us all a chance to reflect on the contribution Christian communities make across the country. Mr. Sunak finished his message by wishing all of those celebrating today a very happy Easter.
And the King, Queen and other senior royals due to gather at Windsor Castle later today. They're going to have a service at St George's Chapel, the first Easter Sunday service of this new Carolean reign. I like saying Carolean reign.
Pick that up. Yeah. I like the sound of it.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, very nice. I think it's the first time I've heard it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like the second Elizabethan age as well. I like to talk about that as well.
So we've gone from the second Elizabethan to the third Carolean.
Yeah, really.
It's kind of nice. It makes it sound, it's like something out of the history books, doesn't it? But we're living it right now.
You think it'd be Carolean, wouldn't you, almost? But I prefer Carolean.
Yes, I don't know why I don't know. I think it's something to do with how it's said in French or something.
And we can call Queen Camilla now, which is new. Or she's still Queen Consort, is she, until she's crowned?
Well, the palace are calling her Queen Camilla now.
That was on the invitations.
Which I think is all that actually matters. There's the sort of thing we're sort of saying, you know, within the news business, people are sort of saying Queen Consort up until the coronation.
Oh, okay.
And then people just say, but actually, she's always just been the Queen. It's just what happens. It's just people have just tried to soften the blow a little bit, going from one Queen to another by saying Queen Consort.
But it's taken its time, hasn't it? I think it was something like 18 years ago. The Queen, as in Queen Elizabeth at the time, said she will be Queen Consort, and she has slowly
said
weaved
privately,
her way into the family and private, exactly. but received well, I think.
I think she's great.
She's obviously a very, very good support to Charles. That's clear to see. So I think it's lovely, really, and the invitations were really nice. The fact that the two of them were together on that as king and queen.
Be very nice, won't it?
I think it would be wonderful. Yeah. Do you know what we're doing yet?
We're down at Buckingham Palace.
Well,
there you go. On the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which is going to be very interesting because on the Friday, of course, is the night after the local elections in England. Is it just England or is it England-Wales? Can't remember. But anyway, the local elections. So we're going to be doing a coronation election special.
Oh wow!
On the Friday morning.
Okay.
And then
a bit challenge.
So it's all going to be very interesting.
And what day is the actual coronation? Saturday.
What day is the coronation?
What day is the coronation?
So Saturday.
Saturday. Okay. It's
Saturday.
going to be action-packed, and I'm very glad Stephen's across it.
Yes.
And I will be there too.
Do you know what? But it's that bit of history, isn't it? It's been that little bit. The only downside, you're as well to watch it on the telly rather than head into the capital. Really, although it's nice to see it with your own eyes. The only downside of working it is that you don't actually see a lot.
You don't see a lot, no.
Well, you're facing the wrong direction for a kick-off. You're always looking,
Yeah.
But there you go.
But it is an honour, isn't it? It is a real honour to be at these events. To be at the forefront of history, in that sense.
It's lovely.
One of the best parts of this job, for sure.
Yes. Now, we like a bit of a sing. We had a sing-song this morning, didn't we?
We always have a sing-song before the show.
Before we go in there. Gets us in the mood, gets us in the spirit. But do you like to have a sing? Are you not very good at singing? It shouldn't really matter. Choirs, though, will be singing, of course, across churches this Easter Sunday, part of Holy Week. But there is one choir in Lincolnshire that meet up and sing with, well, a sort of difference.
Yes, at the I Can't Sing choir, everyone is welcome to have their singing voice heard, even if they've been told they sound awful. It has 2 branches in North Somercotes and Louth and is expanding with a 3rd branch in New Waltham launching this month.
Yeah, Anna Riley, who can't hold a tune to save her life, has the story.
Even if you can't hit the right note, that doesn't stop you from striking a chord at the Can't Sing Choir. It's a place for people to explore the joy of music, even if they don't have the best of singing voices.
I think that everybody has a God-given right to sing, and singing is so good for you. You know, it releases feel-good endorphins, it gives you a natural high. And there's a lot of people that were told when they were younger at choir at school, you know, to mime, or they've been told by their family, don't sing, you sound awful. But we love to sing. We sing in the shower, we sing in the car, we sing when we're cooking, do you know what I mean? And so I think, well, why not? And collectively, we sound absolutely fabulous. It's where you can come and have fun, you meet people, if you're lonely or you're bereaved or you're feeling depressed or whatever. And sometimes, you know, you get home from work and you think, oh, I can't be bothered. But if you come, you end up feeling so much better by the time you get home. It's just great fun, and that's what it's about. It's more than just the singing.
And for the choir members, it brings a great sense of community and togetherness.
This is where you learn a bit more fun and games, not worry about mistakes. Nobody thinks, oh gosh, she's made a mistake. It's all great fun, and it encourages people to get to know each other, brings them out of their shell.
You don't have to sing well. If you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. It don't matter.
It's just a matter of fun. It's laughter. You don't have to be able to sing. And you just enjoy it, and you sing all the way home as well. You know, smile's always on your face.
I've been coming about 6 months, and it's fun, and clears the head, clears the cobwebs. Good for you, helps you breathing.
We absolutely love it. We've made loads of friendships. It stops everyone being lonely and everything. And when you leave, you always get a song in your head, and then your heart smiles, you know, because you're so happy with all the singing.
So, whether you're tone deaf or the next Pavarotti, everyone's welcome at the Can't Sing Choir. Anna Riley for GB News.
Love it.
I think that's my favourite sign-off ever.
Yeah, but do you know what? I really, honestly, truly believe singing is about the pleasure it brings you rather than just how nice or not it sounds.
Yeah.
And also, if you quite fancy the idea of singing and being in a choir, but you think, oh, I might not be, oh, I'm not good enough.
Can't actually sing.
Well, then it doesn't matter, does it?
No. And do you know
I
what?
love that.
I think that puts even more of a smile on your face when it sounds so bad.
Yeah.
Just makes you giggle, doesn't it?
I tell you what, if there was a can't sing choir near me, I would go.
Oh, stop it. He
would.
sings really well. He's being annoying now.
No.
He can't sing.
No, well, I can't.
You sing very well.
I can sing a little bit, but I would still be too nervous to actually join a choir.
Oh, would you?
Yeah, I would be, yeah.
You shouldn't be. You've got a great voice.
But so to that, if it was just like you just doesn't matter what you sound like, I'd go. I would join that.
No, yeah. Would you join a I Can't Sing choir? Do you think it's a good idea? gbviews@gbnews.uk. It's inclusive.
Yeah.
Inclusive. It's very good.
I really like that. I like the fact that, of course, there was men and women in it as well. I mean, I know there often are in choirs, but us men are often a little bit shyer when it comes to things like that.
But also, there's people that can't sing but have never been told they can't sing. So my auntie, she won't mind me saying this, she's quite open about it. She thought she could sing for like the last 50 years of her life.
Yeah.
And she was in all the choirs, like sang her little heart out. And then somebody said to her quite recently, you know, you literally can't sing a note, you're tone deaf. And she was like, I thought all this time I was really good. And I've just been just singing with so much confidence that she can't sing.
Oh,
but no one ever had
bless
the
her.
heart to tell her. So a place like this would be very good
For
my
her.
auntie.
Yeah.
And for lots of people, I'm sure, out there who enjoy a sing-song but
love
can't
it.
actually sing.
Great idea. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. We've got much more to come for you, including chocolate, and more chocolate. How many eggs did you get?
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It is 21 minutes past 6. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Ellie.
Still to come, there's an invisible monster on the loose. That's according to NASA. We've got that at 6:45.
Now, this is slightly scary, isn't it? But we're going to be talking to Andy Lound about this one. Also, this morning, the royal family's first Easter without the late Queen. We'll be looking at that in more detail just after 7 o'clock. And it's going to be difficult, isn't it? I mean, just on an absolutely human level, it's going to be difficult because the Queen was obviously a devout Christian, and Easter is the most important part of the Christian calendar. And Charles is going to feel it, I should think, as well as other members of the family, of course, but we sort of focus on the King. It's just difficult.
And I think you could see that in his face at the King's speech at Christmas. It was really etched on him. I mean, you could see as well that was his son grieving, as well as our new monarch. But yeah, it's going to be difficult. It's a family time, isn't it, Easter? And they all come together. and I'm sure we're going to see them. Where will they be going to church today? Will they be in Sandringham?
No, they're in St George's Chapel in
We're very
Windsor. Yes, of course I am.
Oh, it's across the
Of course I am. Which, of course, is where the late Queen is buried.
Yes. It will be poignant, won't it?
It will be very poignant, yeah.
And I
But
wonder
very
if they
nice
do
as
Easter
well.
egg hunts. If they do, who organises it? That's what I'd like to know.
Yeah, don't know.
Princess Wales. That's my money.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Ian, good morning, Ian. He says good morning to us too. It's very nice.
Morning.
Could you please wish my lovely partner, Carolyn, a happy Easter? We watch your programme every morning, but alas, she's leaving for her work as a carer in the next hour. Love her to bits. Happy Easter, Carolyn, and thank you for all that. Clearly, it's amazing work that carers do.
Yeah.
It's tough, isn't it? It's a tough job, a necessary job, but a tough job.
Yeah. Happy Easter to both of you, to Ian and Carolyn. And Phil says, morning to you both. A question for you. Have you seen the word Easter on Easter eggs? Because I haven't. I'm not sure. We've got some in the corner over there, I think.
Keep talking, Ellie.
On a little
Keep talking,
research
keep
now.
talking.
To be fair, I'm not sure that I have.
No.
But maybe the ones on the left might have a better...
I've got-
no. Here we go.
No.
Bringing the whole staff.
These, well, I'm bringing some of the
Have a look.
some of the stash
No,
in.
it's embarrassing.
This one, I'm trying.
More fancy ones
That's
on
a
my left.
that's a Easter. That's a carrot. It doesn't say Easter on it. I'm trying to not say where they're from.
This is what Stephen got me. I'm really excited.
This one, no, it just doesn't say anything on. And talk about research.
Oh,
and
Easter egg. Here we go.
Where does it say there?
Easter egg. Your Easter egg has been...
Oh yes.
There you go.
It says it on the back in very small letters. There you go. That one doesn't say anything on it, does it?
No. So, but it is
No.
present, just kind of hidden.
Yeah, that's a very good point, though, Phil, actually. I like that. It's a good observation. Easter is a Christian celebration.
We forget that.
I think it gets absolutely forgotten because we all focus on buying each other eggs. Thanks for the eggs, by the way.
Yeah, and thanks for mine as well.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Much obliged.
But yeah, we shouldn't forget what Easter is actually all about.
Yeah, let us know. Are you heading to church today? Are you having a lovely roast, a lovely Sunday dinner a little bit later on? Or are you going to be tucking into your eggs? Let us know what your plans are today. And happy Easter to all of you, GBViews at gbnews.uk.
Now, earlier in the week, the former Northern Ireland First Minister and, of course, our colleague, Arlene Foster, sat down with Bertie Ahern, the man who was the Taoiseach in the Republic of Ireland when the Good Friday Agreement was signed. Mr Ahern reflected on one of the country's key moments.
It's no good thinking that we've actually got over these things. And that comes from today's politicians and into the future. I think they have to be talking messages of reconciliation and peace and confidence.
I often
and
find
not digging up things,
Yeah, if people don't, you don't have to agree with someone's politics
No.
to have a conversation with them.
No.
And I think we've lost the art of that civic discussion and understanding.
I think a bit of education is of how bad things were is a help when you're trying to go forward. Because sometimes, and I find this with students, if I can say those, but sometimes it's simplistic solutions.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as you know, Arlene, I know, these aren't simplistic issues. No. And that's a reality we have to understand.
And you can watch the full interview between Arlene Foster and Bertie Ahern at 10 o'clock during the Camilla Tominey Show.
I just think it's going to be... I was saying this yesterday. I think it's going to be an absolutely fascinating watch because the Northern Ireland situation is complex. Right? Always complex. To see two people who know it intimately and technically from opposite sides of the argument, actually sitting down and discussing it all, I think is just fascinating.
And shows how far we've come, really, that two people can sit from opposite sides, as you say. It's significant. And many people will be reflecting on that today, 25 years on from the Good Friday Agreement.
Now, it's time to... We're slightly earlier than normal, but we're going to have a look at the newspapers for you this morning. For the Times, Sunday Times, is the headline, Labour's dirty tricks here to stay, according to a memo.
The Observer warned that hospitals are in a frantic bid to fill gaps left by the junior doctors' strike.
Mail on Sunday says King Charles is at odds with the church over his diverse coronation.
The Express also leads with the Royals and Prince George and William's father-son day out at the football. Yeah. It was very cute, actually, very good pictures.
Sunday Telegraph says the Tories are at war with Scottish Labour after it called for tactical voting in the next election.
The Mirror leads on their exclusive interview with Olivia Pratt-Corbell's grieving mother.
The Sun on Sunday says S Club's Paul Catamol's final days. He was looking very positive, actually. And this is the last picture of him, as far as we know. Say, I'm going to smash it on tour. Because they were reforming, of course, and going on tour later this year.
Very, very sad. I think he was only 46 or something.
Yeah, 46,
No age
yeah.
at all, just desperately sad news. Right, time to go through the papers now. And joining us this morning is the Deputy Editor of Spite, Fraser Myers, and political commentator and playwright Emma Burnell. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
Great to have you with us. Fraser, let's start with you and that story in the Times that we touched upon. Labour will use ruthless tactics until the election, according to a memo.
Yes, so people might have seen the most controversial instance of this tactic, a sort of image doing the rounds on social media suggesting that Rishi Sunak doesn't want to see paedophiles locked up, which everyone can see is a pretty extraordinary claim, dubious to say the least. Now, that's triggered a lot of controversy, but this new memo suggests that this is the kind of thing that Labour is going to be hammering hard into the next election. You know, essentially not giving any quarter to the Tories, using the sort of lowest common denominator tactics, even if it means sort of spreading fake news. I guess the thinking behind it is that we're talking about it. We're talking about the Tories' record on crime. Whether that's defensible, I'm not so sure.
I hate the term fake news because it was invented by Donald Trump to attack actually what is not fake news, but it was actually... I hate to say it, this is fake news.
It's not fake news as... No, I mean... it is an extreme interpretation of the news, I would say.
No, but
it is not wrong to say that we have an appalling conviction rate in this country.
That's not what the posters say, though,
The posters are saying that Rishi Sunak doesn't care about it. Now,
he's saying,
I don't know...
Hold on a minute. Let's clarify. The posters say, should child sex abusers face prison, Rishi Sunak doesn't. It's not saying he's responsible for what's going on in the criminal justice system. He's saying he personally doesn't think they should go to jail, and that is not true.
I don't know what's in Rishi Sunak's heart and mind. I do know what's in his political priorities. Do I think Rishi Sunak wouldn't lock up a paedophile if he was standing next to him? No, he probably would. But the point is that politically the Tories have not prioritised this. The justice system is falling apart. There's a massive backlog. We have a less than 1% conviction rate on rape. And I don't have a problem with Labour going after the Tories on that.
It's not about the conviction rate, actually, is it? It's about the sentencing.
Well, we have...
It's about this, and on that one, it's about sentencing on sexual crimes, of which in 2012 Keir Starmer was part of the sentencing.
This is where I think there is a slight wobble with the... I mean, I wrote a long piece on this yesterday, far too long for me to get into here, but I said I actually raised that point. I think there is a question of taking these numbers back to 2010. Now, we're covering the whole of the Tory government's reign of error, but there is an issue that at that point, for 3 of those years, Keir Starmer was the Director of Public Prosecutions and Rishi Sunak was not yet an MP. But Rishi Sunak has to be held accountable for what the Tory government hasn't done and, more importantly, not done.
Well, that's fair. That's fair enough. That's a point we raised with Lucy Powell on Friday. But the point is, how do you get that across when actually all everyone's talking about is the fact is that you are playing... It's lies, basically, and it's gutter politics, isn't it?
It is low politics. I really struggled with this, and you can see that in the piece that I wrote yesterday. I don't like low politics. On the other hand, I really hate Labour losing. And frankly, we are not going to see the Tory party engaging in Socratic debate. We're going to see the same things happening on both sides. And I just don't think... I'm not a unilateralist when it comes to politics. You in the same way that you can't be a pacifist if somebody else is beating you up, you can't... You can be, but it's extreme. It's much harder. It's much harder to make the case for it. You can, I think... make the case that, this is where politics is, this is the media we're facing. The reason we're talking about this, the reason this has had cut through when dozens of other Labour ads that were less fiery, didn't, is because they've gone to the extreme. Now, I like it? No.
But what
it's
are we
not
talking
what
about?
I would do. But
We're talking about the Labour Party using
but what are the
gutter
public hearing? The
politics,
public
not
are hearing
talking about
the truth that we have a very low conviction rate on sexual crimes.
Well, they're not even talking... No, that's not fair, because although that's not inaccurate, that isn't what they're talking about. They're not talking about conviction rates. They're talking about sentencing.
Well, OK, we have poor sentencing and low conviction rates. Both of these things are true, and we are now talking about them. Labour has shifted the narrative onto an area where the Tories were traditionally strong and are currently very weak. And that's politics.
Are we talking about it, or are we talking about the Twitter?
I think we're talking about the rights and wrongs of this particular advert. I mean, it's true, no one party has a monopoly on gutter tactics or on, high-mindedness, certainly not. But I think it's another sign of Keir Starmer's ruthlessness that he will do or say anything to be Prime Minister. And it's not just these kinds of attack adverts, it's also what opinion do you want him to have this week? He will have it. You don't like his principles one day, he'll have another the next. He's changed his mind on nationalisation, on the trans issue, on pretty much anything you can think of. There will be a clip of him contradicting himself maybe only a year ago or 6 months ago.
It's not a good look, Emma, is it?
I mean, I prefer that he's been on the journey on some of those issues. I prefer it less on others. It depends whether I agree with him, frankly. But I do agree that Keir Starmer is incredibly ruthless. I'm just not sure I think that's a bad thing in someone I want to be Prime Minister.
OK, Emma, let's go to you now. This is in The Telegraph, sticking with the Labour Party, actually. This is Douglas Ross. He says Scots should vote Labour, so tactical voting, in order to boot SNP out.
Douglas Ross, the best secret weapon the Labour Party in Scotland... Well, no, actually, that's not true. The best secret weapon the Labour Party in Scotland has at the moment is either Peter Murrell or Humza Yousaf. But he's coming... He's really vying for a good third there. It's a quite extraordinary thing to have said. It's not that I don't think the Tories would be thinking this tactically, that they would want to maximise the unionist vote to weaken the SNP, because I think in some ways they would be thinking longer term that might help them to get seats in the future. It's just that politicians aren't supposed to say this stuff out loud.
No, it's very odd.
And it's extraordinary in the context where, if the SNP does do badly in the next general election and Labour picks up some seats, that gives them a much better chance of having a majority at the next election. There is a cost to the Tories of losing SNP seats to Labour. In many ways, they should want for purely tactical reasons, they should want the SNP to do well. It also comes off the back of this Peter Murrell story.
In the Sun on Sunday.
In the Sun on Sunday, where this is to do with the sort of £600,000 that were raised for independence campaigning that allegedly seems to have been used on general SNP stuff. There's a lot we can't say, of course, during the ongoing investigation. But it's interesting today that yesterday, the police took away his motorhome from his mother's house. So this police investigation is really quite extensive. We saw them digging up the garden, and now they're looking into his motorhome, his 110 grand motorhome. This is really, really a bad look for the SNP, particularly the kind of SNP establishment, and for Humza Yousaf, because he was really backed by that establishment.
Well, he's the continuity candidate.
He was the continuity candidate, and would people have voted differently had they known what that establishment might have potentially been up to?
Yeah.
And the timing of it is significant as well. I mean, it's what did the police know and when?
Yeah.
And when did that arrest happen in that timeline? It's all very interesting in terms of that, but it's a challenging time for the SNP. Humza Yousaf only 1 week into a job. I mean, I think it was day 8.
He's having an absolute nightmare. He may be the Liz Truss of Scotland.
Yeah.
But also, on a wider note, on the Douglas Ross point, encouraging tactical voting is not something I would want, as the Conservative HQ in London, any Tory to be suggesting, because there are so many MPs throughout England, Wales and Scotland who are vulnerable to tactical voting, to anti-Tory tactical voting.
Labour's backed it before, though, hasn't it?
Well, Labour has never officially backed tactical voting. There are
Well,
there are places they will put more or less resources in, and that's how they give a nudge to it.
Yeah.
But in Labour's constitution, they are constitutionally unallowed to back tactical voting. If you openly support any candidate who's not from the Labour Party, you will be kicked out, as Alistair Campbell found out to his chagrin. So there are ways of, as I say, subtly suggesting that you might want to do this. There are boots-in approaches, as Douglas Ross seems to have taken, that will cause a lot of concern for Tories in marginals where there could, if the Labour vote goes, oh, hang on, we should be voting Lib Dem in this seat, say, oh, I don't know, Isha, might be one that's particularly vulnerable to this kind of thing, or vice versa, where there are places where you could unseat a Tory if the other parties come together. This is something that does happen. Voters tend to make up their own minds. Usually it's not a good look for any party to say this is what you should do. No. Voters are too clever for that.
Yeah. And if you aspire to be part of the government, you should pretty much contest every seat available. That's the right thing to do.
You would think so. This is going to come back to bite him.
Yeah. Is he thinking long term with this? Is it, as Emma touched on, if you get SNP out, Labour's the enemy, and you can handle that.
Yeah, and I think obviously the beating back the independence cause is obviously a very important thing, and we've seen tactical voting for unionists before. People voting Labour, ordinary Tory voters voting Labour in Scotland. So in a sense, it's understandable for him to have this thought in his head. Yeah. It's absolutely mad of him to vocalise it as the leader of the Scottish Conservatives.
Let's have a look at The Observer, should we? And what he's going to... I mean, this is not a week you want to be in hospital, is it?
No, absolutely not. I mean, it seems that trusts are doing anything except actually pay the BMA guidelines for consultants to come in and cover while the junior doctors are on strike. There are stories of, quite a lot of bullying, real pressure being put on people. Now, we obviously want to make sure that people are as safe as possible during the strikes. But I think there are ways of doing that do not involve causing further problems with the more senior consultants down the line. It just seems that these trusts have completely lost any ability to properly understand how HR, how management should work, and are just going in so heavy-handedly.
But they're in such a predicament. I mean, on the political front of this, at what point do the junior doctors, the BMA, I mean, they're sticking to their demands of a 35% pay rise at the moment. I mean, that's just not going to happen, is it?
I don't think they'll get 35%. I'd love them to get 35%, obviously. I currently pay £14 an hour. £14 an hour for people who are saving our lives. And we all think junior...
You're happy to pay more taxes, Emma?
Yes, I'm always happy to pay taxes.
Oh,
I think it's reasonable. I mean, I don't earn very much, sadly. You guys don't pay me nearly enough to come up here on Easter Sunday. But, I will always pay my reasonable taxes, and that's the price we pay for a good society. But I think it's absolutely essential. When we think about junior doctors, you tend to think that's something you might be called for 1 or 2 years, but it's just not. That can be a decade or so of your career, and you're earning very, very little, comparatively internationally to other countries and their systems, and just compared to other sort of jobs that you might be doing in those years. We all think doctors are incredibly well paid because we see the sort of high-end cardiologist, consultant, 150,000, whatever, but that's not the reality for a lot of doctors.
People knew what they were... Because what doesn't sit right with me on this, and I heard this from a consultant, actually, who was furious about it, was the whole 35%. We've not had a pay rise. We've lost, this is the amount of money we've lost as junior doctors since, I don't know what it was now, 2006, 2008, something like that. See, in 2008, they weren't junior doctors. They were in school.
No,
so they knew what they were going in for when they went into it.
Well, some of them were probably going through medical school at that point because, as I say, being a junior doctor does last quite a long time. So it would be not unreasonable to have gone to medical school at that point thinking you would be earning more by this point. It is... We need to remember that these are the people we're trusting with our lives, with our operations, with things that really matter, with our family members, the care that we really, really value. Now, 35% is a high-end ask, but that's a negotiation. That's what negotiation's for. And unfortunately, the government are refusing to actually properly negotiate with them. And if they did that, if they put forward a decent offer that the junior doctors would consider, this could be over.
What's
but
a
they're
decent
not
offer,
doing
though?
that.
What's a decent offer?
That's not up to me. That's up to the BMA.
Well, no, but you can imagine the government could come in and say, we're asking for 35. You could come in and say, well, what about 20%, which is a huge pay rise, and they're still going to say no.
I suspect if the government offered them 20%, would not be a strike next week. I'd be willing to put that on the table.
It's difficult, though, because the NHS staff, including the nurses, I mean, that deal is what, 2%?
Yeah.
2%, and then something else this year as well. I mean, that's stark, the difference in what the nurses are settling for and what junior
But
doctors are
the nurses
for.
went through their own negotiation. They were originally asking for 15 and they found a place to settle, which is... And let's be clear, this is not just about pay, it's also about conditions. And junior doctors work very long hours. You really don't want to get someone on the end of one of those shifts.
Well,
So there is conditions issues as well. So all of this should be negotiated in the round.
But, Fraser, what is true, and I think everyone can agree on, is this cannot continue. I mean, we're talking about 250,000 appointments this week that are going to be cancelled.
It's
phoned, at least.
It's extraordinary. I mean, the state of the NHS, even without the strikes, is, pretty parlous. You'll be lucky to get an appointment with your GP, lucky to get an operation. So that obviously can't continue. And I think, it is important to pay people properly in these jobs. I get that junior doctor is a path to a bigger, and better career. I was a bit annoyed by the sort of adverts you'd see in the paper saying, oh, we get paid the same as someone working in prep or something like that. It's not quite like that, is it? You do sort of move on.
Eventually, but after quite a long time.
But at the same time, we are losing doctors to other countries, but potentially to other fields, and we need a lot more doctors. We have far fewer doctors per head in this country than most other European countries, so it's something that does need to be looked at.
I mean, they turn the NHS into an internal market. It's then got to act like a market, and markets have to pay the going rate. And if these people are able to earn more elsewhere, that's what they're going to do.
Well, that's an understandable point. We're going to leave it there for now. Fraser Myers, Emma Burnell, thank you both very much indeed. We shall catch up with you a little bit later on.
You are watching GB News, Britain's news channel, coming up on breakfast.
There is an invisible monster on the loose. That's according to NASA. Tell you more in just a second.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference. And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, The People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
Welcome back. You are watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Ellie.
Now, here's a story that's really got my interest. It might get yours too, for a very good reason. Because NASA has said there is an invisible monster on the loose. And not just any old monster, it's a runaway black hole that has got a mass of about 20 million suns. So it's a biggie. It's a biggie. Let's talk to space and planetary scientist Andy Lound, who joins us now. Andy, good to see you. Look, I know we shouldn't panic. We've nothing to panic about with this as yet, but it sounds worrying, doesn't it?
It's great. It's a great thing, isn't it? Happy Easter to you both. Yes, what we've got here is something which is actually quite fantastic. We have a giant black hole, which is not at the centre of a galaxy where most of them are. It's actually racing through the universe. And I think that's brilliant. What you've actually got here was discovered by total accident. Is you've got the collision of two galaxies that's taken place, and in the centre of the galaxies you've obviously got a black hole. But one of those galaxies had two black holes, which suggests it'd already been a merger. And what happened is during this collision of the galaxies, the one black hole was thrown clear, and therefore it's racing through space. The other two black holes, of course, with the laws of physics, had to move in the opposite direction. So that's quite exciting as well, something to look for. But this now is racing through space, and as it races through space, its massive mass has a huge amount of gravity in it. And space isn't empty, it's full of gas and dust. And as it pushes through space, it starts to interact and heat up the gas and dust in front of it, which, of course, due to the gravity, is bent and pulled around it, and therefore has a trail of gas, which then cools, and that cooling gas now forms stars. So it's actually creating stars, and by definition, it must therefore be creating planets going around them as well as it tears through space. If you like, it's like a speedboat going over a lake and ploughing through the algae. And as the algae separates and it pulls behind it in its wake, that's what it's doing with the dust and gas. So as it races through space, it's actually creating new worlds. And this is what's got everybody so excited, because we're now seeing a new way where worlds can be actually created, stars and planets. And of course, it's traveling. I think if it was, its speed is so great that it would only take it 14 minutes to get from the Earth to the Moon, for instance. This is a phenomenal speed for a huge, massive object.
Where is it, Andy?
Oh, it's a long way away. I mean, the incident happened about something like 500 million years ago. So it's an awful long way away from us. We don't have to worry about it. It's millions of light years away. The big thing was it was actually discovered by accident. NASA were looking at globular clusters, and they actually saw a streak, which they didn't know what that was. So they decided to have a close look at the streak and found it was these birth of new stars. And at the end of it, of course, you can't see anything. And then they're actually able to calculate, well, oh, wait a minute, it's going to take 20 million solar masses to actually create this effect. And therefore, it's a black hole.
Wow.
What I find, sorry to bleat on, but you know I love all of this stuff, Andy. What fascinates me is something, because it's obviously big, and black holes warp space-time around them, which is mind-blowing. But what effect does that have then on all that space it's passing through and anything it comes anywhere close to?
Oh, this is it. It actually starts warping space as it moves through. As I said, it's like the boat going over a lake, really, and distorting. If you take the water in a lake as being space-time and you have a speedboat going through it, you see the ripples and contortions caused by it. This is what actually is happening with this black hole itself. What's interesting, because it's not static, it's tearing through space itself. It's having massive effects on the dust and gas around it. And, of course, if it comes close to another system, it will have a big effect on that. In some cases, it could be a detrimental effect on that. But it's not, as it races through space, sucking stuff in because it's travelling too fast. It's, if you like, pushing everything away from it and around it. So it's not, because it's going too fast, it can't suck the stuff in. The stuff is being deflected before it ever gets close enough to it because of its gravitational field. And that's what makes it interesting. I mean, there's got to be more than one of these flying around the universe, which gives you an indication of another way of things can be formed. Now, let's take this trail of stars which is trailing behind it. These, of course, trailing way behind it, will eventually themselves possibly form a new galaxy in its own right. I mean, the trail is about 200,000 light years long, which isn't far off the diameter the size of a decent galaxy, which suggests this could be a way a galaxy actually could be formed. Something I don't think we've actually thought of before.
Well, that is so exciting, isn't it? And really fascinating as well. Andy, what's the... No, it generally is. But I need the basics here. So what is the lifespan of a black hole? I mean, you've already said that it's already become double its size. Is it just going to keep growing and keep moving faster and faster?
Well, the speed of it will keep going. This one goes. I mean, you've got to ask a great question for how old black holes can get. We simply don't know. There is a theoretical mathematical limit for the size a black hole can get, although that has actually been breached twice in observations made in the last few months, which is interesting. In theory, you could keep feeding it, but there has to be something to give at some point because of the material that happens around it, because all that material can't constantly exist. Eventually, it feeds to such a point where the material gets blasted away from it, because you have what's called the accretion disk around it, which is an area where stuff can't fall in and it can't quite fall out, and it gets stuck. And that has a tendency to emit huge amounts of energy, which can blast dust and gas away from it, and therefore it stops feeding, but just sits there as a dense, massive area of gravity and just sits there in space. So we don't think they sort of disappear at all. They sort of just remain. And there's some suggestions of whether or not the universe at the end will be a series of black holes scattered around or not. We simply don't know. But one other interesting idea is that this universe and all universes, multiple universes, are formed from black holes in our universe. So our universe creates a black hole. That material eventually gets pulled in and eventually comes out as a white hole, creating a new universe somewhere else. So they could be actually the precursors to other universes. But again, that's still in the realms of science fiction and theory more than anything else.
But that's the thing, isn't it, Andy? We just don't know. I mean, we know that they're full of matter. I mean, they're depicted in that graphic. It's almost depicted as just like a black sun, if you like. But we actually don't, with that amount of gravity and material and all the rest of it, we just don't know what happens to it.
We've no idea. I mean, we need to get into it, and you can't, of course. I mean, it just breaks everything back down to the fundamental particles that form this universe to start with, which is going back to square one, and it's quite phenomenal. The thing is the mass of it. This huge, massive thing. Light itself cannot escape. It's that massive, and that is just the figures. I mean, we talk in figures to the powers, because they're just too big, because you can't actually conceive the actual numbers of how big these things are. In the scale of massive, I mean, physical diameter, it's probably relatively quite small. That's what surprises everybody. But it's all compressed into this small area, which is what's quite dramatic.
Oh, Andy, I could talk to you all morning. Thank you very much indeed. Really, really good to chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, love it.
You enjoyed that, didn't
It's just so fascinating and so absolutely mind-bending.
Yeah. But Andy's so good as well, because even if you're not interested, he makes you interested.
He does make you interested.
Yeah, very
Great
good.
stuff. Any thoughts on that? Let us know. gbviews@gbnews.uk. We've got everything coming up for you in just a few minutes. First is that all-important Easter Sunday weather.
Hello there, very good morning to you. I'm Jonathan Vautry here with your latest weather update from the Met Office. After a good amount of fine weather throughout the Easter weekend so far, there are just a few changes as we head into the second half, and it's due to these weather fronts that are slowly pushing their way in from the Atlantic. High pressure is still keeping them at bay for the moment, but we are seeing a squeeze in the isobars, and that is certainly helping to pick up the wind, particularly through the North Channel and across northwest Scotland, where we could see some gales developing throughout today. There is a bit of low cloud first thing across eastern areas of England and up into Scotland as well. That will just take a little bit of time to gradually clear its way off, but hopefully some sunny spells will develop into the afternoon. Further west, the sunshine will probably turn a bit hazier as we head into the afternoon as well. We see some high base cloud rolling in, and despite the breeze, temperatures will be climbing above average for the time of year, so highs of 16 to 18 degrees Celsius. It's into the overnight period where we see that weather front gradually push its way across all areas of the UK. So some heavier bursts of rain possible for Northern Ireland, Scotland, into Northern England, and again it will be quite windy around the coasts here. More patchy outbreaks of rain for Wales and then into other areas of England as we move throughout the night as well. With all the cloud and the breeze, temperatures won't drop off too far at all, and most of us will be holding up around 7 to 9 degrees Celsius. First thing on Monday morning then, it will be quite a soggy and wet start for central southeastern areas of England, and that rain could just take a little bit of time before it eventually clears its way off. Behind that, the day will turn into one of sunny spells and scattered showers for many of us, but those showers could certainly be heavy in places, and there is the risk of some hail and thunder in the mixture. where you're in. Some of the sunnier spells still reaching highs of 12 to 14, 16 degrees Celsius at the best, maybe. Otherwise, it is set to turn into a bit of an unsettled weekend to come, with further outbreaks of rain and strong winds at times. Temperatures will also be sliding their way off as we head towards Wednesday.
We've got a brand new lineup every Saturday night on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight. Brand new Saturday nights on GB News, Britain's news channel.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not
believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton Tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Rishi Sunak pledges to fulfil the promises of the Good Friday Agreement ahead of its 25th anniversary.
Good morning, it's 7 o'clock on Sunday the 9th of April. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Ellie. Here are your top stories this morning.
The Prime Minister is preparing to welcome President Biden to Belfast later this week as he seeks to secure a better future for Northern Ireland. The commemorations come amid a heightened terror threat with police on high alert.
The King, the Queen Consort and senior royals are due to gather at Windsor Castle for the first Easter Sunday service of Charles's reign. The sermon is also expected to honour the late Queen, with this Easter Sunday the first to take place since her death.
And of course, Easter wouldn't be Easter without a little bit of chocolate. And we're going to meet an artisan chocolatier a little bit later on in the studio who will share her sweet secrets of success by feeding us chocolate.
I really hope she brings us tasters. Do you think she will?
Yeah.
It would be rude not to, right? Very excited about that.
She'll never be back on again if she doesn't. Let's be honest.
Oh dear. Well, happy Easter to all of you watching and listening. Hope you're having a lovely day. Let us know what you're up to. Lots of you have been getting in touch. We'll share some of those shortly at gbviews@gbnews.uk, or you can tweet us at gbnews.
And now the Prime Minister continuing his preparations for the visit of President Biden to Northern Ireland to mark 25 years of the Good Friday Agreement.
Yes, the Prime Minister is planning on using the President's visit to drum up long-term investment for the nation and improve business relations too.
Well, despite the optimism, the Police Service of Northern Ireland has warned of the potential of attacks of dissident Republicans on police officers.
Well, joining us for more analysis is the political commentator Peter Spencer. Good morning to you, Peter.
Good morning to you both.
You were covering the Good Friday Agreement, weren't you, 25 years ago? Tell us, what were your memories of that significant occasion?
It was a very, very fraught time indeed. I mean, Tony Blair has this particularly bad reputation because of Iraq, and everyone says, oh, well, he was a war criminal. They forget he was also a peacemonger, and that in particular, I think, was his great triumph, because he managed to bang enough heads together, he and, I have to say, his Northern Ireland Secretary Mo Mowlam, and they cracked the code. They were lucky in that they happened to have a couple of seriously visionary people, that is to say the Reverend Ian Paisley and the Sinn Féin leader Martin McGuinness, who had been sworn enemies all their lives. I mean, remember, Martin was a former IRA commander, and that they later became the Chuckle Brothers because of the fact, I mean, they were like the older family, the older generation in the Montagues and the Capulets in Romeo and Juliet. They came to the conclusion, look, do we want this stuff for our kids? And the answer is no. And when Tony Blair now talks about the need for leadership in Northern Ireland, I suspect that up to a point he's tilting at the current leadership of the Democratic Unionist Party, who have said no to the Windsor Framework, which is Rishi Sunak's New Deal to get round the problem of the trading arrangements within the north of Ireland, between the north of Ireland, of course, mainland Britain, and the European Union. And the hope is that at some point the Democratic Unionist Party, who have opposed and refused to go back into government, will come round. They might. It's worth remembering that they've had their pay docked because they're not doing their job. And also as politicians, you know, they rather like running things, so they might. But all this point about Rishi Sunak wanting to drum up business investment in the north of Ireland, if I were a businessman, which thank the Lord I'm not, sir, I would think, look, I'm just going to wait and see if these guys just settle down, get their governments up and running, and then I'll do it.
You see, you have to say, with all these commemorations, Peter, I mean, this is not where, as significant as the Good Friday Agreement was, I mean, we all quite couldn't believe it at the time, in a way. This is not where we expected to be a quarter of a century later, is it?
No, it isn't. I mean, it is quite interesting. I think there is a generational divide within the north of Ireland. Anyone under the age of 25, simply, it's stuff in the history books, the so-called Troubles, also known as a low-level civil war. I mean, it's the same as for me. I was born not that long after the end of the Second World War, and as far as I didn't want to go around bashing up Germans. I thought the oldies were silly for getting involved in the thing. And but of course, with the older people, yeah, those hatreds, and they go back right to the Reformation of the English Church back in Tudor times. Those residue, those hatreds and that resentment does stick, and that's what has to be overcome. And until the governance of Northern Ireland is sorted out and the Ulster Assembly is up and running again, there will be those tensions. There's no getting around it.
It is a difficult time, especially at the moment in Northern Ireland, isn't it? I mean, you touched there about power sharing installment. It remains collapsed. There's this new heightened terror threat in Northern Ireland. And now we're hearing this morning the police service in Northern Ireland has warned of potential attacks this week. Of course, there will be so much security surrounding this trip from Biden, but it's certainly a challenging time, isn't it?
It most certainly is. I mean, very clearly, someone somewhere wants to create trouble in the north of Ireland, and we don't know who, but the police are obviously taking the threat very seriously. They've raised the level 2 to as high as it'll go, and there's a huge police operation going on to ensure that they manage to outsmart whoever it is who wants to do something bad. And with a bit of luck and a following wind, they will succeed in that. But I do come back to this point about the Northern Ireland Assembly. If it were up and running, which would be the biggest party in the Northern Ireland Assembly? That would be Sinn Féin, which of course historically has the links to the IRA. And so if it were up and running again, those people who wish to create trouble would simply be rebels without a cause. Meanwhile, of course, if it goes too far the other way, it is worth remembering there is a residue of hatred on the unionist side. If things don't pan out as everyone hopes that they will, or almost everyone hopes that they will, there's always the danger of paramilitary operations from the other side if they get a sense they're being sold out by the British government. And it's worth remembering that detractors of the Democratic Unionist Party do say, well, their motto is, Ulster says no, whatever the question.
Peter, good to see you. Thanks very much indeed.
Nice to see you too.
It is Easter Sunday, of course, and here's an interesting one, because we're talking with the royals. We were saying it's the first Easter Sunday of the Carolean age, this third Carolean age, first one without the Queen, of course. Karen, hi Karen, who's been doing her research. Karen says, not only is it the first Easter without the Queen, it's also the second anniversary today of Prince Philip dying.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh.
She's quite right. So there's quite a few emotions to contend with. It was also Charles and Camilla's 18th wedding anniversary yesterday.
My gosh, has it been that long already?
Yeah, so they've been married a long time.
They have, yeah, 18 years, and that would align with what I was saying earlier about that's when the Queen, the late Queen Elizabeth, said that Camilla at the time would be Queen Consort. But now, I mean, she's been serving, hasn't she, and being a good team member with Charles for the last 18 years. Now we know she's going to be Queen Camilla.
Yeah, and on the commercial side of Easter, Ian, I think we may need to speak to you, Ian, because he says, morning both, I'm the very proud father of the R&D, that's a Research and Development Director, responsible for the production of 80% of the UK's Easter eggs. All this is done in a factory unit in Telford in Shropshire. Chocolate shipped in from the manufacturers like Cadbury, Nestlé and others, moulded into eggs, wrapped and boxed, ready to delight. Ooh. Have a good Easter, best wishes. Thanks, Ian. That's interesting.
Ian, we need to have a chat with you.
We do need to have a chat.
That sounds amazing.
I had no idea it worked like that. You just sort of think they all do their own, but they don't, do they?
You should be a guest today, Ian. That sounds great. Yeah, I'll get you on. Martin says, hi, Stephen and Ellie. Happy Easter to you both. Please say happy Easter to our grandson, Archie.
Hi, Archie.
Happy Easter, Archie. We are having an Easter egg hunt in our garden for him this afternoon. Oh, it's so cute. Great show. We watch GB News every day.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Well, nice little Easter egg hunt and all that sort of thing.
If you have got any pictures of an Easter egg hunt, or I was requesting lambs earlier.
Oh, lambs. You want to see
lambs?
lambs
Out of the window. If you've got any lambs out in your garden or across some fields, please send them in. I love a lamb.
Yeah.
Not to eat, actually.
It's lambing season at the moment.
It's lambing season. And we're going to actually have one of our reporters, our Scottish reporter, actually, he's going to be lambing a little bit later on.
Oh, is he?
Feeding the lambs.
Oh, very nice too.
Yes, it's going to be great. So any pictures of your rabbits, of your lambs, of your...
We've got rabbits now?
Yeah, it's an Easter thing, isn't it?
Is it? Yeah. Just rabbits.
Bunnies, Easter bunny.
Honestly, she's
Come
just...
on.
Basically, if you've got an animal, take a picture and send it in. Ellie wants to see it.
Please, yes.
Chickens, anything like...
Yeah, chickens, they'll do as well. GBnews at gbnews.uk.
It's 11 minutes past 7. Let's bring you up to date with some of the other top stories today.
And the NHS National Medical Director warns patients face unparalleled levels of disruption when junior doctors start a 4-day strike on Tuesday. Professor Stephen Powis says he's very concerned with hospitals facing nearly 100 hours without up to half of the medical workforce. The NHS Confederation says 250,000 appointments could be postponed.
The mum of Olivia Pratt-Corbell has told the Sunday Mirror the law should be changed to force criminals to attend their sentencing. Cheryl Corbell has spoken out after her daughter's killer refused to appear in the dock as he was jailed for a minimum of 42 years.
Thousands of expectant mothers are set to receive a maternity allowance boost of 10.1%. The increase will see payments go up by £15.82 a week. The Department for Work and Pensions says the automatic increase will benefit around 40,000 parents this year.
And the Prime Minister says Christian values of tolerance, compassion and charity are part of the British fabric. In his Easter message, he also said Easter Sunday gives us all a chance to reflect on the contribution that Christian communities make across the country. Mr Sunak is actually a Hindu, finished his message by wishing all those celebrating today a very happy Easter. I think it's very nice, actually, because he is a Hindu, and the fact that he's still done an Easter message and reflected on Christian values, and I think that's important, actually.
No, I thought exactly the same thing on the way in this morning. And it's nice that he commented on British values and extended an Easter wish. I think that's really nice. But that would be expected. I mean, we see the same thing with Diwali, don't we? And Ramadan, there's usually a message from himself, Rishi Sunak. So it's nice that he does the same for a Christian community.
Yeah, I just think it's nice and reflecting on what Easter is actually all about.
Yeah.
So, no, good.
Carol's been in touch talking about different religions. She says, morning, you two. Question. Being Jewish, I find it awkward wishing Christians a happy Easter. Commemorate, this has always bothered me. I suppose that's because of the real meaning of Easter.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Christ is risen, isn't he, on Sunday? So, but Good Friday, I understand.
Do you commemorate Easter? No, I don't think you commemorate it. I think it is a celebration because it's about the defeat of death, isn't it? Death has lost its sting, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So no, I think Happy Easter's good. Carol, you carry on.
And Stephen, you need to put the chocolate egg down or up your insulin.
She'll up my insulin. Yeah. Well, I'm meant to be on the diet, but that's why I got to pot.
I did actually have to double check with Stephen this week. I said, I'm going to get you an egg. Am I right to get you a normal egg, or do I need to get you one of those special no sugar ones?
A diabetic egg.
Get me an egg.
Get me an egg. No, well, the diabetic chocolate is for type 2 diabetics, really.
Oh, I see.
Rather than type 1s.
Oh, so you're OK.
We can have real eggs.
And then Carol says, it's still Passover, so only certain chocolate for us, so you can't have any eggs. She's off to get the papers and a box of tea. Have a great bank holiday weekend. And to you too, Carol.
Yes, lovely.
Lovely time.
Now, NATO has doubled its border with Russia following Finland's accession to the military alliance last week.
The distance between the newest NATO member, Finland, and St. Petersburg is now a mere 250 metres.
Metres? Really? No, that can't be right.
No, it must be miles.
Must be miles, I should think. But what does this mean for us in the UK, and will expansion make us safer? Let's talk to military historian Dr. Peter Caddick-Adams. Peter, good to see you this morning. Look, you can understand, you can understand why Russia is unhappy with this, 830-odd miles of border now, a NATO border with Finland. However, they've brought this on themselves, haven't they?
Yeah, we can only see this in terms of an own goal. Finland had, for years and years, decades, managed its own relationship with its much, much larger neighbour, and the invasion of Ukraine put a stop to all of that because it suddenly illustrated just how unreliable the modern Russian regime was, and they could do the same to Finland. So, the effect is that the length of the border between Russia and the NATO countries is now double what it was a few days ago. And there's only one person responsible for that, and that's Vladimir Putin. So that's the 31st member of NATO that's joined, and we hope in the summer there will be Sweden, who will become the 32nd. So, a few years ago, people were talking about, well, how relevant is NATO? Is it old-fashioned and something to do with the Cold War? And what it's demonstrated is that it's incredibly relevant to the new world order and is stronger than it's probably ever been. It's coming up for 75 years next year, and it's as strong as it was on day one.
Finnish people are feeling about joining NATO because they have had a long and uneasy relationship, haven't they, with their big neighbour?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tiny country of, 5.5 million people, but they all do national service. And every large public building has got a sort of bomb shelter in the basement. So they've always been on this sort of sense of semi-military standby, just in case the balloon goes up. I mean, Russia invaded in the Second World War. So this actually takes some of the load off them, because if anything happens again, then it's all for one for all, and the rest of the NATO will pile in and defend them. But I mean, the Russian reaction has been absolute fury. We will take countermeasures. What on earth are they going to do? I mean, nearly all of the Russian army is busy fighting in Ukraine and making an absolute hash of it. There's nothing the Russians can do to threaten Finland at the moment. So Finland's in a very, very strong, comfortable place. It's a win-win for them, and actually it's a win-win for NATO, because Finland is a very strong, militarized, military reliable country. And so this is good news all round.
Well, except Peter, and we've got to bear it in mind, haven't we, that obviously Vladimir Putin is not the most stable man. He's talked about increasing sort of nuclear armaments along that border as a result, and it's not necessarily just what he might do now, is it, but what he may do in the future if he continues to feel threatened.
Well, here's the message I've been pushing all year, which is that whenever anything happens to Russia's disadvantage, they use the word nuclear, and they hope that they will frighten people into stopping to do something in the West. And the truth of the matter is, right from the word go, when Putin said, I'm going to put my forces on increased nuclear alert, he didn't. Every time he's threatened something, it hasn't transpired. I mean, he talks about stationing forces in additional nuclear forces in Belarus. I mean, let me let you into a secret. They've always been there. They were there in the Soviet days. And to shuffle a few missiles a few miles closer to the West doesn't increase the threat at all, because whatever was in range before remains in range. So, I mean, all of this amounts to absolutely nothing. And I mean, the other thing to say is that, Russia is actually playing by the rules. We don't think about it, but they are. So when President Biden visited Kiev recently, the National Security Advisor was able to phone up Moscow and say, Biden is about to come to Kiev. Don't do anything. Don't launch a missile, because we will take that as a threat against us. So, there are rules that are still being played out between Russia and the West, and we tend not to think about them because of the Russian rhetoric. But that's really all it is. It's rhetoric, it's aggression, because they can't really do very much else.
So Finland has just become the 31st NATO member. Do you think we're going to see other countries such as Sweden or Switzerland, neutral countries, follow suit?
Well, Sweden is neutral, has always been neutral right through the Second World War even. They've, of course, have applied to join. Turkey and Hungary are sort of holding that process up. But we hope by the summer that Sweden will become the 32nd member. I don't think Switzerland will ever take that step. But what is happening certainly around Europe and the wider world, is that the old world order of who was on whichever side or neutrality, I think, is being disrupted. I mean, university departments around the world are just standing in amazement at the pace and change of international events and international relations. This hasn't happened since the Second World War, really. We haven't had this amount of change in such a short space of time, so it's difficult to sort of predict where it's going to go. But Switzerland is certainly under pressure to change its closeness to Russia and the way it plays supplying armaments to other countries. And there will be other countries in and around the world, around the fringes of the Mediterranean, and particularly in the Gulf, that will probably feel the same pressure too. So there's more to come. The story isn't over yet in terms of who's on which side.
Peter, really good to see you this morning. Thanks for that.
Thank you very
much. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Still to come this morning.
The royal family's first Easter without the late Queen. Will be looking at how they plan to celebrate.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything, I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference. And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not
believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB+ radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories, controversies and issues.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
It's 5 times the opinion, 5 times the debate, and 5 times the fun. The Saturday 5. Saturday nights from 8. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You could wink at the end. I can't Britain's
wink.
listening.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
7:25. Good morning to you watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Ellie. Still to come this morning.
We'll bring you all the latest from the world of showbiz with our lovely Stephanie Tecci at 7:45. She'll have good news for Star Wars fans. Are you a Star Wars fan?
Oh, yes.
Oh, dear.
I am. And warnings continue for the tourism industry about EU visitors turning their back on the UK. We'll tell you why.
Will we?
Apparently, yeah. Get in touch if you want to join our conversation this morning. gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Yes, lots of you getting in touch. This one's made me giggle. Debbie says, Happy Easter to you both. Happy Easter, Debbie. Just wanted to share a funny story with you. My mum and dad always did the Easter egg hunt for the grandchildren in their garden. This one particular year, Dad hid all of the eggs and one by one, they were disappearing. When they looked out, a squirrel was pinching them all. We still laugh about that every Easter. Hope you have a lovely day and eat lots of chocolate. And we will do both those things.
Oh, that's quite nice.
Yeah, squirrels like Easter eggs. You know?
They do. Squirrels are in trouble in our garden because they keep digging up the lawn.
Oh, do they?
There you go.
Maybe you need to leave them a little Easter egg out.
Maybe that's the way. We're talking about that runaway black hole earlier on. And Danny, hi Danny. Danny's got out of bed the wrong side this morning. I think. If a runaway black hole is millions of miles away from Earth and has no bearing on Earth, my question is, why bother on warning us of this? There are lots of things going on in space, but why warn us about this? It's not a warning, Danny. It's just interesting because it's creating stars, potentially creating life.
Galaxies, yes.
Yeah, the whole shebang. So it's not a warning. You know, it's not gonna come for us.
No.
That one won't. Another one might.
But it was great. It was great. It was very, very interesting. And Paul agrees. A great programme. Love it. Need Andy on more often. Maybe he can have his own space programme. Happy Easter all.
He'd be a good new Sir Patrick Moore.
Yes,
Andy, it'd be great. Teresa says, what an amazing story. Can Andy have his own slot on the show, please? No, but I like the idea, actually.
But when there's a space story, we should definitely get him on because he makes it very interesting for everybody. And
understandable,
which is a very good thing. So let us know what you're up to this Easter.
Tuneless choirs.
Tuneless choirs. Oh, yeah, do you want a bit of that?
Yeah, I want a bit of that because we were showing Anna Riley earlier.
Oh, yeah.
She's at the Cartsing Choir. Val says, I belong to the Tuneless Choir in Maidstone. We meet once a fortnight. I joined after my husband Doug died. It was difficult at first, but it lifts my spirits and we have a great laugh, especially when we get it wrong. Everyone, join one near you. It's the best thing I've done.
I think it sounds great. It's the first time I've heard of it. Diane says, Happy Easter, Stephen and Elaine. What a fabulous idea this Cartsing Choir is. We, the world, definitely need more of it. All the madness and sadness that surrounds us daily. Best wishes. And that's it, isn't it? To laugh and have a giggle. I mean, it just sounds so funny.
But I'll tell you how you can be damaged by it, because it's so inclusive, whether you can sing or not, and you can be damaged. Anne says, when I was at primary school 60 years ago, our head teacher recorded us singing in pairs. I was paired with the best singer in the class, and afterwards we had to say which was the worst singer. So, of course, I admitted it was me. So, as a result, I don't sing now, except in church, where no one cares. You sing your head off, Anne.
I do. But church is such a lovely place to sing, isn't it? That's the only place I really sing as well.
You do not. You sing here every day.
I sing with you as well, but I wouldn't sing publicly. Oh, just stop it.
Well, you've got a lovely singing voice.
No. But no, mass or church, that's the place to sing. It's good to have a good sing-song.
Yes.
And hymns, it's lovely. And there'll be lots of that happening today, obviously, Easter Sunday.
Yes, but of course it is the first Easter Sunday that the royal family is going to spend without Queen Elizabeth after her death in September.
Yes, the family usually celebrates the religious holiday at Windsor Castle. And they are going to attend a church service today at St George's Chapel.
Well, let's talk to former royal editor of The Sun, Duncan Larkham, who joins us now. Hi, Duncan. I mean, it's an interesting day. As one of our viewers and listeners pointed out a little bit earlier, it's not only this first Sunday, Easter Sunday, without the Queen, but it's the second anniversary of Prince Philip's death today.
Yes, it's the double whammy in that respect, isn't it? Yeah, and the Queen was always a creature of habit, and obviously Easter at Windsor was one of the most important sort of traditional get-togethers for her family, along with sort of Sandringham for Christmas and Balmoral in the summer. So she will definitely be missed, and of course, as you say, a 2-year anniversary of the death of Prince Philip.
What are we expecting the family to get up to today? So we know that they're going to be going to church together, but what else happens? Do they have a dinner together?
Yeah, they normally go to St George's Chapel, which is obviously on site of Windsor Castle, and then there's a walkabout. Probably will see them visibly in front of the cameras, but only briefly. It's essentially a private day for them after the service back they'll eat together in Windsor Castle, and we probably won't see any more of them than that.
There's quite a few royal stories around at the moment, Duncan, including the Mail on Sunday today says the King is at odds with the Church because the coronation, which of course isn't very long away now, he wants it to be reflective of all faiths, which obviously some bishops aren't happy with. Do you think he'll get his way on something like that?
Well, Prince Charles, I mean, he is obviously, when he was Prince Charles, before King Charles, the Prince Charles was very, very active in sort of interfaith. It was one of the key things that interested him. But of course, becoming king, he becomes defender of the faith, which is as head of the Church of England. So on the coronation, you've got the that sort of dilemma with wanting to mark all faiths, as the Prince Charles would have done. But now, as King Charles, he has a role really. Very significant role within the Anglican Church itself. So there is a dilemma there, and it's a sort of sticking point that had been bubbling under the surface for some years, because obviously it's no surprise that he is now king, and will be asked in that capacity to be the defender of the Anglican Church and the head of the Church of England.
So King Charles, I mean, not long to go now until the coronation. He will, of course, be looking forward to that. We saw the invitations go out this week, which was very him in style, with those lovely British wildflowers around the side of the invitation. It was on recycled, and cabbages were there in there, and on recycled paper. So we had a flavour of perhaps what's to come there in that invitation. But how are the preparations going?
Well, we understand that they're sort of gathering pace now, and there's really only a few weeks to go, as you say, but we still don't know when those invitations and the deadlines for the RSVPs in. It seems that we still don't know whether Harry and Meghan will be there, and at the moment, as we build up to the Jubilee, continually Harry and Meghan, will they be there, won't they, seems to still be dominating some of the news headlines.
Duncan, good to see you this morning. Thanks very much indeed. I've reached a point now with Harry and Meghan. I don't care if they're going up.
Oh, really?
I just they'll either turn up or they won't.
And what's your money on?
I think they'll be there.
Yeah, I think they will too. Because ultimately, it's what keeps them relevant. And they do need to keep that connection to the British royal family, don't they? So I think they will. And will they bring the little ones? Yes, I do, because it's Archie's birthday, isn't it? So that's what I think is going to happen.
But actually, I don't care. Let's just focus on the king.
Let us know what you think. That's probably right. Yes, put the focus where it should be. But let us know what you think. Do you think Harry and Meghan should be attending the coronation? Do you think they should stay well clear? Let us know what you think. GBviews at gbnews.uk.
Lots still to come this morning. We'll take you through the papers in just a couple of minutes.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage. Here on GB News, we will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. I campaigned in the largest democratic vote in our island's story. I know this country has so much to be proud of. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better. The wisdom of the nation is in its people. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. That's why I'm joining the People's Channel. Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News. Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
7:37, welcome back. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Ellie.
And it's time to go through the papers now. Joining us this morning is the Deputy Editor of Spite, Fraser Myers, and political commentator and playwright Emma Burnell. Good morning to you both. And Emma, we're just talking about the coronation, so we're going to stay on that theme. And it's going to coincidentally eclipse a predicted Tory wipeout in town hall elections. That's in the Express.
Yes, the Tories have considerable luck when it comes to Prince Charles's moments in the sun. The coronation will come straight after the local elections. The local elections are expected to be not great for the Tories. Now, the numbers that they're putting out there are probably not realistic. They always do this. All parties do this. It's not just the Tories. They're saying we're going to lose 1,000 seats. Well, actually, the last time these seats were up was in 2019 under Theresa May, when she was not in a good place. So actually, the difference between then and now will be less pronounced, I think.
But it's all expectation.
But it's expectation management, exactly. But it probably isn't going to be Rishi Sunak's best night, but he will be able to go straight on to the coronation and people will just not want to talk about the local election results.
No, because, I mean, they'll take a while to come through as well. They're not quite as quick as the general election results. So we'll get some Friday morning when we're on Love, and then we get the rest on Saturday morning, which we won't be talking about at all, really.
Absolutely. And I think in some ways this is obviously they're happy that we won't be talking about it, but the underlying problem won't be solved, that they are probably going backwards in actual polls rather than opinion polls. So I wonder if it might have been better for them to take a hit now and do the work rather than cover this over, plaster over the cracks. We shall see.
Yeah, and it's usually the kind of thing that would, a bad result, as we're expecting, would get you to question the leadership. But Rishi Sunak is pretty secure in that role. I don't think anyone's going to be calling for his head over these results.
No.
Has he got enough time to fix it, though? I mean, if it's as bad as everyone expects, we're looking at a general election next year.
Well, it's a tiny amount of time to turn things around. And I think, especially if you're thinking about the economy being one of the major factors, big one of Rishi Sunak's promises was to get inflation under control. It's not something that, all economists had pretty much predicted that inflation is going to go down this year, but it hasn't been going down as fast as we'd expected. Now, that has nothing to do with what the government's doing, but they wanted to take credit for it falling. But if it doesn't get down, if we're still at 10% or even at 5% inflation this time next year, by the time the election comes around, they're in deep, deep trouble.
5% would be all right, because instead they've halved it. But
it doesn't mean that prices have gone down.
No.
That's the thing that people forget. It just means they're
increasing less.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll still be paying nearly £5 for a stick of butter. And that is what when people hear, we're going to bring down inflation, I think people hear we're going to bring down prices. Yeah. And that is what will hit them at the ballot box.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. Those move to spread, Emma, rather than butter.
No, don't tell her that.
Oh, I use butter literally once a year to cook my Christmas cake.
So do you use spread?
If I use anything at all, I use spread. But as you know, I'm permanently on a diet, so it's usually a very low-fat cheese, if anything at all.
I was buying butter. I like butter, but I've moved to spread because it's about a third of the price.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
Does it taste nice?
It's all right, yeah.
Yeah, see, I like the real
Put a bit of Marmite on it. It's wonderful.
Exactly. There you go. To the Mail on Sunday, Fraser, looking at, say again at the coronation, but bishops aren't overly happy with Charles sort of wanting to be defender of the faiths, as it were.
Yeah, so actually this defender of faith quote goes right back to the 1990s when Charles said as king, I don't just want to defend the Anglican faith, which, you know, he's obviously now head of the Anglican Church being king, but wants to defend, you know, Britain's a multi-faith, multicultural society. He wants to defend all faith in general. And this has led to a big row because he wants to involve other faiths in the coronation. But technically, it is an Anglican Christian ceremony that goes back, you know, 1,000 years or something. And so, you know, the bishops are upset. They obviously want to stick to tradition, and there's a bit of a row. What's interesting is, like, the Mail talks to, you know, different representatives of various religions, like the Muslim Council of Britain. They talk to Sikhs and Hindus, and they all say we're fine with it being a completely Christian ceremony. Often, I'm reminded of those stories you get once a year about Christmas being banned, and usually it's not actually Muslims or Hindus or Sikhs who get annoyed about Christmas. They're not bothered at all about Christmas. But in terms of people acting on their behalf or thinking they're speaking for them.
But isn't this quite useful in I mean, not for the religious leaders, but actually for people of a Muslim faith or a Hindu faith or a Jewish faith or whatever, that actually they can feel more involved in the king, with the king. I mean, that's got to be... I mean, that's a positive thing, isn't it?
Well, I think, you know, it's good that what will definitely happen is that they will have a sort of be visible in the ceremony. The specific row is over whether they can do readings or... So it's kind of...
But
you know,
still,
there's
that's
no...
not presiding over it, is it? It's just, like, reading a prayer.
Well, I'm not in charge of... Anglican canon law, but they're pretty insistent that they can't budge on this.
Yeah. Well, no, as long as they're seen to be there, though.
Yeah. And, you know, that they obviously would be.
I mean, it does demonstrate the inherent tensions between having someone who is both the head of the Anglican Church, which is still probably the majority religion in the country, but not anywhere like it was at the last coronation in the 50s, and head of state, which is, as we said, we're a fairly secular, multi-faith society. And there are obviously tensions between those two things, and I think that's probably what Charles is trying to represent. But it is, you know, a significant kickback. Fraser said it's not been the same for 1,000 years. Now, of course, I'm currently reading the Hilary Mantel books, so I can tell you all about the fact that it was about 500 years ago that all of this changed, because obviously Henry VIII disestablished from the Roman Church, and there was a huge kerfuffle then. So these things can and do change, and they change with monarchs and the whims of monarchs generally. But I think there is probably a defensiveness around the Anglican Church because it is considerably less a part of public life than it would have been at the last coronation.
OK. Emma, can we have a look at young people in the Mail on Sunday? Breaking up is hard to do, as we know, so young people aren't really doing it, or at least not in the same way.
No, it seems there's been a survey. Gen Z and millennials, so the two young generations younger than mine, are really, really bad at telling you why they don't want to see you anymore. So they'll just ghost you. 71% and 72% of those generations.
Just block your number or something.
Just block your number, never respond to your text, just don't reply. My generation's a bit better. It's only like something in the 30s or 40s that do that, but they still do it. I mean, I think it does depend where you're at. So if you're in a formal relationship, put on your big boy pants and break up with me. If, on the other hand, we're just at the start and you're just exchanging a few texts, we all drift out of those. And so I think there are reasons that this might happen, but I do think that I think there is a conversation to be had about what we owe each other. And I think, you know, I would hate to see younger people not have the kind of rich, rewarding relationships that you would then feel obliged to end it properly with somebody.
Yeah. Well, are you a millennial, Fraser?
I am a millennial, yeah, just about.
So are you terrible at this? You're always just ghosting people?
No, I wouldn't. That's cruel, isn't it? I wouldn't do that. anything like that.
Well, look how defensive he looks, and ever so slightly guilty.
No, I think there is definitely a generational shift, and you can see this in the level of commitment people are willing to show. You know, people are less likely to get married. You know, people will attribute that to all kinds of things. And also, you know, young people are having less sex than their equivalent 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
That's definitely true.
Which is, you know, I think these are quite sad trends. I want to see
They seem very puritanical, this next generation. My generation was all kind of, we don't care about anything, you know, all kind of slightly hedonistic. And that seems to have almost completely disappeared.
I wonder if this is kind of the online generation, though. If you're online all the time, you have fewer face-to-face interactions. I mean, you hear about younger generations, especially when they go into their first job, not too comfortable picking up the phone and actually having a conversation.
Yeah.
So maybe that extends into dating lives, and it's.
I mean, I'm sure it does, but and if you are only online with someone, breaking up with someone online is perfectly reasonable. I mean, I would send a reasonable message. But if you're actually having a face-to-face relationship, then break up face-to-face.
Yes.
Do the right thing,
As you
break
say,
up.
Put the big boy pants on.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite right too. Lovely. Fraser, Emma, thank you. We'll catch up with you a little bit later on.
Thank you.
Now, don't forget, coming up at 10 o'clock this morning on the Camilla Tominey Show, the former First Minister of Northern Ireland, our colleague, Arlene Foster, is sitting down with the former Taoiseach, Bertie Ahern, ahead of the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement. Here's a quick look.
Everyone just sets, you know, their position, and then nobody wants to move forward because, you know, there's so much in the absence of violence. Then you have to make political progress, and I think that you'd be a bit fearful of a new generation, you know, far younger than me, that they don't remember where all this was, and they just don't understand that we need to make compromises to move forward, because it is a shared space. We still have a divided society. There is the Britishness and Irishness, or both, you know, so we have to continue to work at that, and there doesn't seem to be an awful lot in that at the moment.
It's going to be one to watch, so don't miss that, 10 o'clock this morning. Now, it's time for Showbiz. Stephanie Tetchy's here. Good morning.
Morning!
And let's kick off with the most important thing that's happened in a very long time.
Gosh. Star Wars celebration. The Force is with us in London at the moment. A big, mighty Force, by the sounds of it as well.
It's at the Excel, isn't it?
Yeah, so every year there's a Star Wars celebration, and this is the first time it's actually come to London. So it's been a 4-day event. Tomorrow's going to be the last day, and it actually coincides with the 40th anniversary of the Return of the Jedi. So you can imagine fans are going ape crazy for it. But there's been so many things that have come out during this 4 days. That there's been new exclusive previews. But one of the most exciting news that's come out from this, there's going to be 3 new Star Wars films in the making.
Another 3.
Another 3. So Daisy Ridley has been confirmed to reprise her role as Rey. And apparently in this new movie, it's going to see her building up a new Jedi empire, which will be interesting, and the forces that come against it. But, you know, fans have paid like £85 for a ticket to go to this event, and they're just seeing all these exclusive previews, which has been quite exciting.
Yeah, so, I mean, 3 new films, that's going to span, what, a decade or something,
Yes,
isn't it? It's been a long time.
Even this morning, I was trying to work out how many Star Wars films have there been, because there's just been so many. I think there's been about 12?
12, I think.
Yeah, 12. So
I love how you just know that number.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's 12. Plus, you've then had the little extra ones.
Yeah.
Sort of thrown in.
And there's going to be new TV series as well. So I think we're going to have a lot of Star Wars content over the next few years. Which is
excellent.
Exciting. Are you a big Star Wars fan?
Yeah.
I always try to get into it, but I just feel like you need to start from the beginning and then watch to get, you know, the real story of it.
You see, I'm of the generation of it. But saying that, I was taken to see the original film in 1977, but I was only 3, so I fell asleep in the cinema, apparently. But I've just always loved it. And if you look back at episode 4, 1977, it sort of hasn't aged.
Oh, really?
It still works. It's not dated. It's incredible.
I feel like it's always been ahead of its time.
Oh, yeah.
Just even with the sci-fi and all the, you know, the graphics of it all, it's just amazing.
It's just a franchise that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
Just when you think you're done.
Yeah,
3 new films.
yeah. I can never
brilliant.
picture
I'm
a
not
day without Star Wars, yeah.
Yeah. We're going to talk about my favourite person.
Oh,
so from
my
Stephen's favourite
gosh,
thing to
your
my favourite thing. And very, very sad news.
Oh, rumour has it, Ellie, that Taylor Swift has split up with Joe Elwyn. So this is her lovely British boyfriend. He's a bit of a hunk. And they've been together for 6 years. Sorry, I'm so bad. They've been together...
No, he's very pretty.
He's on the market. This is a good thing.
I'm available. They've been together for 6 years, but obviously at the moment Taylor's doing her Eras tour all around the US at the moment, and report says it's just kind of split them apart in different directions. But you know what? It's so bad, but I like when Taylor Swift and Adele break up, because that means we're going to get new music, and it's all going to be based about heartbreak and getting over it. You know, during her tour, she's openly said on stage she likes teaching men how to apologise. So I don't know if Joe's done something wrong. But, you know, he was a part of her music process as well on her last album. They wrote tracks together and even won a Grammy because he was working under a pseudonym and stuff. But, you know, Taylor's had some high-profile splits in the past. You know.
And I thought
who else was she going out with?
everyone.
Oh, she's been out with everyone, Stephen. She's done Calvin Harris, Joe Jonas. The list is endless.
John Mayer.
Yes. Oh,
really?
I like them
Everyone in
together.
Hollywood,
Yeah.
But how old is she? Because if
She's
they've been...
31?
Yeah, 33.
So she's been 33?
Yeah.
So she's been going out with Joe since she was 27?
Yeah. So that's a key age for a woman. So I think...
Do we know why, Steph? Because I thought this was the one.
I think it's her, like, basically, now she's on tour, they're going to be apart for quite a bit, and he's also an actor, so he's quite got a busy schedule in his own right. But there was a lot of talk about them actually being engaged, but they've been quite a private couple, so, you know, it's hard to say what this could be, but maybe it just ran its course, or maybe Taylor just needs new inspiration. New music.
See, I hadn't even thought about the music, and that is a very, very good point. There's going to be a heartbreak album.
There will
and
be.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Well, unless she's done the dumping and she's delighted. And
I know.
It might be a freedom
Then it
album.
might be, yeah, freedom indeed. And she is all about female empowerment, so I don't see Taylor being heartbroken for long.
To be fair, you wouldn't know she's gone through. You wouldn't know she's gone through a breakup with this stadium.
No,
It's
and
amazing.
I think that's the thing with performers. Like, the show must always go on. You know, I was talking yesterday about S Club 7, and it's like, you know, through the challenges and stuff, I think performers always find solace in being able to be on stage and being around their fans. So watch this space.
Yes.
It's a rumour at the moment, but who knows?
Oh, well, there you go. I have to say, I couldn't name a Taylor Swift song.
Oh, I love it. I saw her in performance. She's great. And happy Easter, guys. So
Oh, yeah,
happy
happy Easter.
You have a lovely one today.
Yes, and you, darling. We'll see you a little bit later. Oh, no, we don't do it
no,
today.
no.
I always say this on a Sunday.
I'm a one-hit wonder today.
Oh, don't like
Fabulous
it.
you are, darling. Happy Easter.
All right, that is it from us for this hour, but we've got lots still to come to keep you entertained right through the morning. But first, let's have a look at your weather for you.
Hello there, very good morning to you. I'm Jonathan Vautry here with your latest weather update from the Met Office. After a good amount of fine weather throughout the Easter weekend so far, there are just a few changes as we head into the second half, and it's due to these weather fronts that are slowly pushing their way in from the Atlantic. High pressure is still keeping them at bay for the moment, but we are seeing a squeeze in the isobars, and that is certainly helping to pick up the wind, particularly through the North Channel and across northwest Scotland, where we could see some gales developing throughout today. There is a bit of low cloud first thing across eastern areas of England and up into Scotland as well. That will just take a little bit of time to gradually clear its way off, but hopefully some sunny spells will develop into the afternoon. Further west, the sunshine will probably turn a bit hazier as we head into the afternoon as well. We see some high base cloud rolling in, and despite the breeze, temperatures will be climbing above average for the time of year, so highs of 16 to 18 degrees Celsius. It's into the overnight period where we see that weather front gradually push its way across all areas of the UK. So some heavier bursts of rain possible for Northern Ireland, Scotland into Northern England, and again it will be quite windy around the coasts here. More patchy outbreaks of rain for Wales and then into other areas of England as we move throughout the night as well. With all the cloud and the breeze, temperatures won't drop off too far at all, and most of us will be holding up around 7 to 9 degrees Celsius. First thing on Monday morning then, it will be quite a soggy and wet start for central southeastern areas of England, and that rain could just take a little bit of time before it eventually clears its way off. Behind that, the day will turn into one of sunny spells and scattered showers for many of us, but those showers could certainly be heavy in places, and there is the risk of some hail and thunder in the mixture. where you're in. Some of the sunnier spells still reaching highs of 12 to 14, 16 degrees Celsius at the best, maybe. Otherwise, it is set to turn into a bit of an unsettled weekend to come, with further outbreaks of rain and strong winds at times. Temperatures will also be sliding their way off as we head towards Wednesday.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got a brand new lineup every Saturday night on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today. Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight. Brand new Saturday nights on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Rishi Sunak pledges to fulfil the promises of the Good Friday Agreement ahead of its 25th anniversary.
Good morning to you. It's 8 o'clock on Sunday, the 9th of April. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Ellie. These are your top stories.
The Prime Minister is preparing to welcome President Joe Biden in Belfast later this week as he seeks to secure a better future for Northern Ireland. The commemorations come amid a heightened terror threat in the country. with police remaining on high alert.
The King, the Queen and senior royals will gather at Windsor Castle for the first Easter Sunday service of Charles's reign. The sermon will also honour the late Queen, with this Easter Sunday the first, of course, since her death.
And Easter Sunday just wouldn't be Easter, would it, without chocolate? And we have got a treat for you. We're going to meet an artisan chocolatier who's here to share her sweet secrets of success.
Now, what is an artisan chocolatier?
A really fancy, artistic one, I think.
So it's like really posh chocolate?
Posh. Is what that means? Yes.
Posh.
And hopefully she's going to bring lots of things up.
Does that mean it's extra tasty?
Well, I hope so.
It'd be quite interesting,
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
You'll want to stay tuned for that. We'll do a taste test.
All right, here's it. Email us, gbviews@gbnews.uk. I'm on a diet at the moment, and I did have a cheat day on Friday. So should I eat the chocolate or not?
Obviously, he should. It's Easter Sunday. Come on.
Let me know, because I'm feeling a bit guilty about it. gbviews@gbnews.uk.
He just went, oh, I hope they say yes.
Well, I do.
But you can't put it out to public opinion and then try and sway the vote.
I will abide by the vote.
No, it's Easter Sunday. You have to treat yourself on Easter Sunday.
Yours.
Calories don't count today.
They all say no, I shall say no. There you go.
They won't. No, they love you. They'll let you eat the chocolate. Let me eat the chocolate, please. Now, should we do some work?
Yes.
Yes. Because Rishi Sunak is continuing his preparations for the visit of Joe Biden in Northern Ireland to mark 25 years of the Good Friday Agreement.
The Prime Minister is planning on... I'm sorry. I do apologise. I'm still laughing about the chocolate. I do apologise. The Prime Minister is planning on using the President's visit to drum up long-term investment for the nation and improve business relations. Crucial, of course.
Yes, but despite the optimism, the police service of Northern Ireland has warned of the potential attack of dissident Republicans on police officers.
Let's talk to our Northern Ireland reporter, Doogie Beattie, who joins us now. I mean, there's no getting away from Doogie. There is a shadow over all of this, but this is going to be an absolutely crucial week, isn't it, for Northern Ireland?
Well, it is, and it has been since Friday. Of course, Northern Ireland reached that very historic peace agreement 25 years ago. I was there at the time, standing outside Merryfield Secretariat buildings, waiting for the deal to be shown to the media. I was a lot younger then, it must be said. But it was historic, and it has been since. But I listened to a contributor earlier on that said the no, no, never. That could not be true, because the one thing about the Good Friday Agreement, it was all based around consent. And two people had to meet in the middle in order to respect each other's community, respect each other's nationality. And so the two words of the Good Friday Agreement were really respect and consent. And they very much have been done away with ever since Brexit, because, of course, we then had the protocol. We now have the framework document. And I'm here to do stuff for the People's panel this morning, and that's why I'm in this business park. And it actually struck me, this business park was built just at the Good Friday Agreement about a year beforehand, and it was designed to bring business, just like many others, in round areas of Belfast and Northern Ireland that had seen some of the worst deprivation and violence of the Troubles. And ironically, the protocol and framework document have done more damage to small businesses like this that depend on goods coming from the UK unfettered and being brought in. And of course, the only goods now in that new framework document that are going into the green lane are retail goods that start at one point and have a final destination. Anybody in manufacturing, especially small manufacturing, their goods will automatically go into the red lane because they have no final destination. And that's what's brought the Good Friday Agreement to where it is now. The lack of respect and consent inside that agreement, designed to protect the integrity of the EU's single market. So it is quite embarrassing for the British government and for politicians, it must be said, and the people of Northern Ireland here, who are seeing a historic agreement wanting to be celebrated by the world. And of course, the government is no longer in place because of another international trade agreement that came after that overwrote the first one. So when he arrives, he is arriving here on Tuesday night, Air Force One, we believe, being greeted by Rishi Sunak, and then he will spend the day here on Wednesday. He is going to the opening of a new university here, a new university campus that is in the centre of Belfast, and then it's believed he's attending a dinner and then going on into the Republic of Ireland. Now, the PSNI are coming under serious pressure in Northern Ireland. As we've reported on, there has been increased threat levels from the dissident Republicans, the new IRA, but that's not totally new. It was brought down last year and then put up again after the attempted murder of John Caldwell, and that's expected to take place in the Cregan area of Derry tomorrow when the dissidents have their Easter Rising parade. The police have already said on Friday they feel they're going to be drawn into trouble there, and they are warning them, we know what yous are doing.
OK, Doogie, for now, thanks very much. You've just been to Belfast, haven't you?
I did. I went 2 weekends ago, yes. And I did a black taxi tour. If you're watching and listening in Northern Ireland, you'll know all about that. But it was amazing. Went on a black taxi tour and we did all of the areas that were most affected by the Troubles. And I was actually quite struck. So that there is quite a Protestant street. I believe it's Shanklin Road, I believe it's called. And Falls Road, which is a really Catholic area. There's still the peace wall in between those two roads. And it still gets locked every single night. I didn't realise it's about 9:30 it gets locked. And that the man that drove us around, he's called Mark, and he was Protestant, but he was made such a point when he was giving us this tour of just keeping his language really, really neutral. And he says that's the way forward now. We just have to stay neutral and look ahead. And he'd actually lost family members to the Troubles as well. So it was amazing, really. And I do recommend to go visit Belfast and see it for yourself. It really is just steeped in history, very painful history. But they are, looking to the future, and 25 years on, I mean, it's significant, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. Look, let's bring you up to date with some of the other stories this morning. And the NHS National Medical Director has warned that patients face unparalleled levels of disruption when junior doctors start a 4-day strike on Tuesday. Professor Stephen Powis says he's very concerned hospitals are facing nearly 100 hours without up to half of their workforce. The NHS Confederation says 250,000 appointments could be postponed.
The mother of Olivia Pratt-Corbell has told the Sunday Mirror that the law should change to force all criminals to attend their sentencing. Cheryl Corbell has spoken out after her daughter's killer, Thomas Cashman, refused to appear in the dock as he was jailed for a minimum of 42 years.
A new survey suggests more than 1 in 10 teachers have been physically assaulted by a pupil in the last year. A teachers' union says they've been kicked, bitten and punched by pupils, whilst more than 1 in 4 have faced verbal abuse from a parent or carer.
Thousands of expectant mothers are set to receive a maternity allowance boost of 10.1%. The increase will see payments go up by £15.82 a week. The Department for Work and Pensions says the automatic increase will benefit around 40,000 parents this year.
The Prime Minister says Christian values of tolerance, compassion and charity are part of the British fabric. In his Easter message, Rishi Sunak also said this Easter Sunday gives us all a chance to reflect on the contribution Christian communities make across the country.
Now, tourism industry leaders fear losing out on swathes of EU visitors following the introduction of passport checks post-Brexit.
Yeah, French and German citizens, less than half of whom hold valid passports, are two of the largest markets for UK tourism, and there are growing signs that they're staying away. I'm baffled by this, actually. Can we talk to Simon Calder, who's here? Hold on a minute. I know the Schengen Agreement, right, allows people to roam across Europe, but you could never get into the UK without a passport.
Oh, yes, you could.
Could you?
You could, up until October 2021, which, of course, was in the middle of the pandemic, so lots of people didn't notice. Let me take you back, let's say 15, 20 years. It's always been the case, while we were in the EU, that people from EU countries with national identity cards could get into the UK. It's simply one of those things.
So we had to show our passports into the UK.
We had to show our passports, but that's because we haven't got ID cards. The vast majority of European countries have ID cards. They can travel anywhere within the EU, anywhere within the wider Schengen area, which of course includes Switzerland, Norway, Iceland and plucky Liechtenstein. There's a whole load of countries out towards the Balkans and beyond, former Yugoslavia, Turkey, Georgia, where they say, oh, you're from Europe, that's fine, we know that your ID cards are secure, so in you come. But the UK, for reasons to do with problems that certainly took place in the, maybe 15, 20 years ago with fake ID cards. One of the Brexit promises was we're going to stop Europeans coming in on their ID cards. Now, that was carried out in October 21. It was absolutely clear that we would be saying to 300 million Europeans, they are the Europeans who are in the EU but don't have a passport because, frankly, why would they bother? They're only going to travel within Europe. And we were saying, you cannot come in. And surprise, surprise, lots of those people are thinking, OK, well, I could go and queue up in my local post office in Lyon or Frankfurt or wherever and get a passport and spend €100, or I could just go somewhere else, like Ireland. And so, therefore, the UK is absolutely losing out. Not only that, a lot of people in tourism I'm talking to who have been hit by this says, this is absolutely ridiculous. Yes, there were real problems, particularly Italian ID cards. I mean, you could sort of vaguely make one 20 years ago and you might get through Heathrow. These days, they're all incredibly secure. They're as secure as passports, but unless you've got an EU passport, you're not coming into the UK. There are some slightly different rules for people who have right of residence here, and they can still use EU ID cards. But we just said, no, we don't trust ID cards. You're not coming in. Everyone else is going, but these things are now really secure. They're just as good as a passport, and you're not letting them in. You're saying, waving goodbye to all these holidaymakers.
Will that change soon then, do you think, Simon? Is there a possibility that that could? I mean, as you touched upon, for businesses and the tourism
Absolutely not. Because at the time I said, excuse me, tourism's collapsed because of COVID, so you're not seriously going to bring this in because then tourism would not recover as swiftly as it might. And they said, no, we definitely are. It was a Brexit promise. We're going to do it. And they have. And so, absolutely, I respect people who keep their promises, but it does come with consequences. And that is, as we are seeing reports, particularly French, German, but also Spanish, Italian, people aren't coming here. There's another aspect which in some surveys by the tourism authorities has come out, which is that Brexit made us look as though we're not welcoming and friendly, which is obviously not true.
Do you think people actually believe that? Do you think Europeans would?
That is what some people are thinking. Now, I was lucky enough to be in central London yesterday, Westminster, Leicester Square. You couldn't move. It was great. I love tourists. Some people might think they get in the way a bit, but actually we love them because they keep the economy ticking over. But there are not as many of them as there might be. And of course, the other thing is we want people to come not just to London, which is the real honeypot, but to go all over the UK to the Four Nations and really see what is on offer.
Mind you, look, every cloud and all that, let's try and stay positive. Could this not mean more, we start campaigning more to get more tourists from America, more tourists from China? Because when they come over, they're actually big spenders.
Oh, well, it's the Americans that everybody wants. Of course, every country in the world wants people who will arrive, spend a lot of money, stay a long time, be very cultural, and perhaps not behave in the way that some tourists, maybe even some British tourists, behave abroad. And that's what every country wants. But of course, we're all fighting for them. And there's no doubt that the UK is a really popular place, and things like the coronation will increase the interest in the UK. My goodness, I've been looking at the hotel prices over the coronation weekend. They are huge. Clearly some money being made. But to say to these people, you can't come in because historically ID cards, which is perfectly true, were not secure enough, looks a bit like cutting off your nose to spite your face. And just to readdress your point, I think there will be a change in that rule because it's very easy for any politician of any party just to say, well, we've had a look. At the time, there were good reasons for banning ID cards. We've suddenly discovered, actually, they're really secure, so we're going to open up again. And that would be a perfectly sensible economic move, and it wouldn't, I don't think, cause any problem. Of course, ironically, one reason we have the issue with the boats is because we don't have ID cards here, but that's an entirely different story. Nothing to do with me.
No, that could, yeah. Well, that sort of thing. I've never been against ID cards. I know a lot of people don't like it. But if we did have them, I can now imagine Europe saying, oh, you can't use them.
They could say that, but that's partly because we have we said we want to be like the people of Venezuela or Tonga. We want to be third country citizens. We want you to inspect our passports, check how often we've been into Europe in the past 6 months. Look how many stamps you've got,
Simon. That's amazing.
Well,
You've just been to Venezuela, have you?
Not for a while, no.
I'm sure I just saw Venezuela.
Stephen's part-time job is as a passport official.
Uzbekistan, been to.
Anyway, we want to be treated the same as them. Have our passports inspected just as you are doing and stamped. And that's quite difficult to do with an ID card. So it would take a different relationship with Europe, shall we say, which, again, is a sensitive subject and I will not go into.
Can I just say, because Simon, you'll often see Simon when he's on location, he talks about and he waves his passport about, and I've often thought, I'd love to get my hands on that and see where he's been. I've never seen a passport with so many stamps on it.
Well, actually, you touch on a really important point, Stephen, which is that because we insist on these things being stamped, this passport is, as you say, completely full. Wow. If you are just going to Europe, then once it's full, they've got to find a piece of paper and stamp that and sort of stick it in your passport. But the trouble is, there will be other countries you go to, such as Turkey, where they say you're not coming in unless you've got a full empty page, and it might be full of stamps from all those trips to Calais.
Yeah. Oh. We'll all have to get those passports with extra pages in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Jumbo passport, sorry?
You certainly will.
Well, yes. Well, anyway, anybody, of course, who can get an EU passport, whether it's Irish, any other nationality, they will be in a far superior position because they don't need to be stamped and they can stay as long as they want.
Well, yes, but it's not blue, Simon. Let's be honest. I like my blue passport. Thank you very much indeed. Good to see you. Thank you.
Oh,
go on.
Croatia, they've got blue passports.
Oh,
you can, if you're in the EU, you can make your passports any colour you like.
Oh. Really?
Yes.
Oh, there you go. You'd be great at a pub quiz.
Very good at a pub quiz. Why did we have an burgundy one for so long? Oh, no, we could have stuck with blue. I couldn't get my blue passport fast enough. No.
I like getting the stamps, actually. I'd be a bit more like you, Simon. Collect all my stamps.
Anyway, if you've got a view on that, let us know. GBViews at gbnews.uk. We've got much more to come, including all the sport with Chris Scudder.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things. We've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference. And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories, controversies and issues.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
It's 5 times the opinion, 5 times the debate, and 5 times the fun. The Saturday 5. Saturday nights from 8.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You could wink at the end.
I can't
Britain's
wink,
listening.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Can I read this? Yeah. Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Ellie. You look like you're about to say something.
Oh,
very
no, sorry,
important.
no. I was just looking at my sports list ahead of talking to Scudder. Still to come for you this morning, an army veteran is walking the length of England, 20 not 200 miles a day, that'd be something.
He'd get that done quick.
20 miles a day for 20 days. It's quite a thing. We're going to be checking in with him.
That sounds quite nice, actually, walking 20 miles a day. And if you're struggling to think of ideas for your next holiday, lambing season is here. It's so cute. More of that just after 9 o'clock. Yeah. Oh, look.
Are you happy now?
That's what I wanted, just a little lamb.
It's got a collar on that one.
Oh, he's really hopping around, that one.
Oh, bless.
Wow. If you're listening on the radio, you're missing out.
You're missing a treat. You're missing a treat.
It's
It's very
lamb.
cute. GBviews at gbnews.uk if you want to get in touch this morning.
Okay. Oh dear, that was a bit enthusiastic for that one. We're talking about sports now. We're joined by Chris Scudder, who's in the studio with us.
Morning.
Morning,
Good
morning.
morning.
Happy Easter.
And a happy Easter Sunday, and the bunnies and all the rest of it.
And the
flowers
lambs.
And all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And lots of happy news if you play for Man City.
Yeah, but if the teams at the bottom of the Premier League, you won't be saying that. There's a lot of stern faces down there today. But Man City Arsenal playing later on today. Massive game for them against Liverpool in the fight for the title. Man City won 4-1 at Southampton yesterday. Now, if I said to you the name Erling Haaland, you'd know who that is, right?
Oh yeah, goals.
The striking Viking, they call him. Do you know what? He wears his hair in a kind of bun at the back. He let it down after he scored a goal at the end of the first half yesterday, and it all kind of flopped, and it looked like yours, Ellie.
Oh,
Just
really?
at the back. Long, blonde. It looked like a Viking, you know.
Yeah.
And he is an absolute monster. I'll tell you why. He's the fastest player to score 30 goals in the Premier League season. He got 30 in 27 games yesterday. So, and he is and there's still 9 league games to go. He's already equalled the most goals from a Premier League player in all competitions. Mo Salah and Ruud van Nistelrooy from a few years ago. 44 he scored in all competitions. And his boss at Man City, Pep Guardiola, saying that he's up there with Lionel Messi, he thinks, and Cristiano Ronaldo. He is an absolute machine in front of goal.
He's young as well, isn't he?
He's 22 years old. I mean, he is honestly, he could end up with 60 goals this season, which is just, in English football, is just incredible. Amazing player. But, Premier League yesterday was interesting. Frank Lampard came back yesterday Is he going to re-inject some vigour into Chelsea? Answer, no. They lost their first game to Wolves. They've now lost more than they've won this year. They've spent £500 million this year. Can you believe that? £500 million lost to Wolves. He's saying it takes more than one day. Look, Frank's not going to solve it. They're going to get a new guy in the summer, probably. They're playing Real Madrid in the Champions League on Wednesday. They're going to be huge underdogs. Real Madrid, the most successful team in the history of European football. But, you know, back in 2012, Chelsea, similar situation, they had an interim manager, Roberto Di Matteo, and they went on and won the whole thing. So could Frank repeat that? They're huge underdogs. I mean, it's hard to see them beating Real Madrid, who are masters in Europe, but that's coming up this week. Also yesterday, Spurs beat Brighton. Harry Kane and Heung-min Son got the goals. Interesting one, this, because two Italian coaches, Roberto Di Zerbi of Brighton and Christian Stellini, who's the stand-in at Spurs, because they sacked their manager recently, both got sent off. Massive row, mostly about VAR. You know, who is refereeing games at the moment? Is it the referee or is it the bloke in the stand? Which seems quite wrong, really. And they keep getting it wrong. There were a couple of handballs yesterday. Brighton had 2 goals disallowed. One of them was a joke. Should have been given. Should have had a penalty as well. But, you know, nobody can agree who is right on the decisions, whether it's the bloke in the stand or it's the bloke on the pitch.
How can they get it wrong on VAR? We can watch it in slow-mo for about 12
So many of these are opinion. You know, one of the handballs yesterday, it's handball if the ball hits your arm below your shirt line. And it was... One of the goals disallowed was around that area. So was it above or was it below? It cost Brighton the game. They lost the match to Spurs 2-1. But you know, a lot of people saying they were robbed yesterday. So you know that is a real problem. VAR, I hate it, and a lot of people do as well. Bottom end of the Premier League. Who's going down? Southampton lost yesterday. Looks like they're going to go. Leicester. 2016, the great story, Jamie Vardy and all those boys. Vardy has scored 1 goal in 29 games now. He's 36, though. You know, they lost their chairman, of course, the Thai chairman who died in that helicopter crash. Since then, you know, the club has started to slide. And since Christmas, they've been the worst team in the Premier League. They're second bottom. Nottingham Forest lost yesterday to Bournemouth, who they shouldn't, one of their relegation rivals. That's a massive loss for them. Forest lost yesterday to Villa, who are flying up the table. So at the bottom at the moment, it's Southampton, Leicester and Forest. They might all struggle to get out now. Everton lost at Man United, a massive club, Everton, but they're 4th from bottom and just about hanging on there. But they were
4th from bottom?
4th from bottom, yeah. Another club is really badly run, unfortunately for them. You know, going to a new stadium, could be in the Championship next season, but it's a real scrap down there, and with 8-9 games to go, you know, it's a real dogfight.
Yeah. What's happening with the Masters?
Oh, the golf, yeah. It's going to finish today with pretty much two rounds of golf to play today, because yesterday it's biblical. I think we've got some pictures we can show you of what happened at Augusta yesterday. I mean, midway through, they were already behind from the second round. And it just rained, biblical rain. You know what it's like in those sort of humid places? When it rains, it really rains.
Like tropical, yeah?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. So they had to... I mean, the sirens went off, because some trees got blown down the day before. Sirens went off mid-afternoon, you know, get off the course, it's dangerous, puddles everywhere. So today they've got to come back and play pretty much 2 rounds, or 29 holes. The leaders... American Brooks Koepka, he's on 13 under par, leads by 4 from the European John Rahm. But anything can happen, because 29 holes in one day, they're going to be starting at their time. There's Tiger Woods from yesterday, who he was soaked to the skin. And poor old Tiger, he's 22 shots off the lead. He's the bottom of the 54 players remaining in the tournament. And you can see what happened. So they're going to come back. Fortunately, the weather forecast is better for today. But they're going to be starting their time at breakfast time and finishing almost till it's dark. So you can imagine that's going to be a really gruelling day for the players.
How's the amateur getting on?
He's doing really well. He's still in 3rd place, 6 under par. So, I mean, if he won it, that would be an absolute sensation. Never happened. An amateur's never won the Masters. Should just mention the English players who are creeping up. Matt Fitzpatrick, remember him? And a player who everyone went, you know, who is he? He won the US Open last year from Sheffield. 28 years old. He's creeping up. He's 5 under par and doing really well. As the rain came, he seemed to get better yesterday. And also Justin Rose is 4 under par. So two English players, Matt Fitzpatrick and Justin Rose, who could make a dent on the top of it. But it's going to be
That'll be a good
an
story.
epic day today. Yeah, and hopefully the weather will, the lightning and the thunder will stay away. But
what's the prize money like in the moment? Because I always think it's a bit miserable that all you seem to win is a green jacket.
No, that's the one they all love to wear. That's the thing with it. The Masters is become. We always say, the Open is the thing, but there's a mystique about the Masters now that everyone loves. The green jacket, but they win about £3 million.
Do they? That's all right.
Dollars, I think. But and the second place is only about £2 million. So it's a huge event. We should mention the Arsenal-Liverpool game today, which is going to who's going to win the league? 5 points between Arsenal and Man City at the minute. City are absolutely flying with Haaland, the striking Viking with the Ellie hair, looking fantastic. And Arsenal have got to play Man City away still. So that's the 26th of April. So it's looking as though that might be a blockbuster decider. It's at City's ground as well.
You see, here's a secret for you, Scods. Have you ever seen Erling Haaland and Ellie Costello in the same room?
I think they should do a photo shoot together because you'd look great. When he lets his hair down, honestly, he did at half-time. He sort of fiddled at the back of his hair and it all flopped back. And everyone went, and he is one of those sort of, he is a Viking, but he looks like a robot. He plays like a robot. He scores so many goals,
Extensions.
No, it's all genuine.
Oh, is it? Wait.
Is it across it?
You could learn a thing or two there, darling.
Make it till I make it over here.
Chris, thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure.
You could do with a few extensions in there.
I could, on top mostly.
Yeah. We've all been there.
You with us later, or are you one and done?
I'll come back if you want, but,
Yeah, I don't know.
You're back tomorrow, aren't you?
Are you? It's Monday.
It's Monday tomorrow, isn't it?
I think I'm roping you into things.
Easter Monday. There's football tomorrow. Easter gets a bit weird.
Yeah. Come in if you want.
OK.
Feel free. Just have a wander in.
Absolutely. I'll come and do Ellie's hair.
Cheers, Chris. Oh, yeah. Don't go anywhere. We're going to have a deep dive into the Sunday papers in just a moment.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners on TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. I campaigned in the largest democratic vote in our island story. I know this country has so much to be proud of. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better. The wisdom of the nation is in its people. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. That's why I'm joining the People's Channel. Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. You are watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Ellie.
Time for the papers this morning, and we're joined by the Deputy Editor of Spiked, Fraser Myers, and political commentator and playwright Emma Burnell. Morning once again, you two.
Morning.
Let's kick off with a bit of Old King Cole in the Mail on Sunday, Fraser.
So as of next week, the last ever sack of coal is going to be delivered to a UK house because it's essentially going to be banned. But it's interesting because the Mail piece, looks back on the fact that coal is really the thing that powered British civilization, if you like. I mean, that's also a quote from George Orwell. You think about the role that coal has played in the Industrial Revolution. You think of all the sort of coal mining towns, the role of coal in the labour movement, things like that. There's a bit of wistful nostalgia for coal, even though we are, of course, better off with gas and, more modern forms of electricity.
Well, we are. Yeah, we are. But it just seems, I mean, even in my lifetime, I remember the coal man coming and the bags and the... I mean, actually, the uncle of a friend of mine at school was a coal man.
And if you're naughty, Santa give you a lump of coal. instead
you were supposed to bring a lump round, weren't you, if you were first footing?
First footing, yeah.
But the problem is, Old King Cole might have been a merry old soul, but it was also a dirty old sod. Yeah. And we have to, move with the times. It is important that we do move, and, that's progress for you. There's a reason we use cows instead of horses. There'll be a reason we use something instead of cars in 20 years. These are important developments. And it's right to look back and celebrate what we've achieved. And Fraser's absolutely right. The coal industry, in terms of the Industrial Revolution, was essential, and coal mining was an essential part of the labour movement, which built, a lot of what we consider the institutions of the left in this country. But all of them, I think, the NUM is now a very, very small union. All of this is... Progress is not terrible, it's how it's managed that matters.
It is so interesting, though, especially communities that are traditional mining communities. I was in Whitehaven months ago now, and that was when the new West Cumbria mine was announced. And it's that move from traditional mining to now coking coal.
Yeah.
They're going to. Yeah. It's fascinating, really, for a community that is founded on mining.
Well, that controversy is quite interesting because that coal is not going to be burnt for electricity. We're going to stop doing that pretty much from next year. We've extended the life of various power plants because of the energy crisis. There's genuine worries that we could run out of energy. But a lot of people were talking as if that Cumbria mine was going to be used to burn coal for that. It's used to make steel, and we still don't yet have a way of making steel without the use of coal. There are some...
things like wind turbines.
And exactly, the fact is that the green transition is going to need a lot of coal. A lot of the things are going to be manufactured in China and India, and they're not coming off coal anytime soon. I think it's right, for us to be using gas and things like that. It's cheaper as well, and cleaner. That's no bad thing. But, I think people have a right to be nostalgic about...
nothing wrong with a bit of nostalgia. Let's move on, should we, to The Observer. Emma and... private education. If you go to a posh private school, you're more likely to vote Tory.
Yeah, it seems you're almost double as likely to vote Conservative as you are to vote Labour. Now, this is a longitudinal study, it's worth pointing out. This has followed a cohort who were born in 1970, which is 5 years before I was born, so, you know, really ancient. But they have, you know, looked over their lifetime. So it's not just whether they're going to vote Tory at the next election. It's that they develop a lifetime's pattern of voting Conservative. And I think this is an interesting story because we've been talking a lot over the last couple of weeks. There's been a big furore about who are the elites. And this idea that all the elites are sort of liberal. And I think when we're in the media, that it can feel that way a little bit. But actually, what you largely get from private school, you get a good education. Whether it's better or not than some state schools, that's questionable. But what you really get is a fantastic network. And it's those doors that get opened that do develop into, you know, we think that all the private schools are filling up the BBC. That's not true. What they're largely going into is private industry and, you know, that kind of old school tie networks. And they are going to have, therefore, more likely to be low tax, low regulation, because that's what they've been inculcated in throughout their working life. Private schools are a step, buying an advantage, essentially, otherwise you wouldn't pay for it. And that, therefore, speaks to something that is likely to address a more conservative viewpoint.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see.
Shocker, is it?
Well, I guess one of the things is obviously the voting patterns have changed very significantly in the last 10, 15 years, particularly, you know, around before and after Brexit. Nowadays, in 2015, if you're a graduate, you're more likely to vote Tory. Now, you're much more likely to vote Labour since the Brexit vote. And I'd imagine most people who go to private school go on to higher education. And, you know, the 2019 election was a bit of an anomaly where you did have large numbers of working class people voting Tory for the first time. You know, if you were in the C2DE category, you're more likely to vote Conservative. If you had the lower your salary, the more likely you were to vote Conservative. So that was a significant break with the assumptions we had in the past of people voting, working class people voting Labour. It'd be interesting to see if that carries on, because a lot of people would say that Rishi Sunak doesn't quite have the same appeal to the Red Wall voters, the mythical Red Wall voters, as Rishi Sunak does. And also, there's a lot of research showing that millennials are not. They're sort of breaking this pattern of where people traditionally become more conservative as they get older. Usually it's around age of 35 where people start to switch allegiances, and that isn't happening, and that's the case in the UK and the US. So it's not as if we can attribute this to any particular decisions of our own.
No, but I do think one of the things that is true in both the UK and US is it's harder and harder to actually get economic capital. People are not able to buy a house. I know plenty of people of my own cohort, I'm 48, who simply can't afford to buy a house. And why would you be a capitalist with no capital? I mean, it's just it's basic public policy. And unfortunately, we've become, the Conservative Party has become a party with very narrow interests at times. So, they're always looking to the people who already own homes, that smaller and smaller group who don't want new homes built. But that is meaning that they're not developing that next generation of voters. I'm reading a fascinating book by Professor Tim Bale at the moment called The Conservative Party After Brexit. And Fraser's absolutely right. The changes in who the Tories represent and who they're... It's actually really readable. It's one of the best
You know how
things.
to pick up a good novel, don't you?
Well, I am also reading the Hilary Mantel book, so,
Oh, you're doing a lot of reading
Let's
very busy.
Well, you could be doing a degree with all this reading. What about this Sunday Telegraph looking at a Mickey Mouse qualification?
So they've picked up on a degree that's being... The actual degree, it's a master's degree in queer performance, but one of the big aspects of it is drag. And you pay £11,000 for a 15-month course, which seems pretty extraordinary to me, just because, you're thinking about... It's a lot of money. If you're thinking about the average drag queen, this is a gig economy job. They're probably, doing stuff in the top of a pub. It's not a particularly lucrative career. I wonder if, RuPaul's Drag Race has convinced people that it's much more glamorous than it probably is. Maybe that's why there's so many drag queens in libraries and schools at the moment, because there, aren't enough nightclubs to cover all the work. There's a big glut of them, it seems.
I do find it very odd, though, because there is this, at the minute, there seems to be quite a thing against drag queens. A lot of people seem to be sticking the boot in.
Yeah, I think...
and yet, only a week ago, everyone's lauding Paul O'Grady, who no one would know of if he hadn't been a drag queen.
I mean, I've seen great drag and I've seen terrible drag. I mean, it's like all art forms. I mean, I think it is worth mentioning about this degree. It is actually an accredited master's degree from actually a very good drama school. Rose Bruford is a very well-respected drama school. So this is not, some fly-by-night operation.
No.
I mean, £11,000 is actually fairly standard for a master's. It's actually on the lower end, I think, for some places. So you will come out of this with a relevant and academic qualification. So you won't just be simply learning how to do drag. You'll be doing a lot of the theory. So when I did my master's in journalism, it wasn't just write 10 articles. It was, really going in depth into what journalism is, what it's about, the history of it, all of these things. So I think that it is worth saying this isn't just some non-accredited course. I would question whether anyone at any university on any topic should have to spend £11,000 on what is largely a remote course. But that's a bigger question for the whole of academia, not just for Rose Bruford.
Can we have a look at this? I want you both to get stuck in on this one. It's a Mail Online. I think it's a Mail Online, isn't it? But looking at the Bodyguard musical, because I know you picked the story, but you're a playwright as well. I mean, should we be getting so irate because some people in an audience want to sing along to a musical?
Well, it seems it went a little bit further than that, which is quite funny.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Singing along to a musical is all well and good, but there seemed to be quite a big disturbance, and the police had to be called, and it ended up the performers didn't end up being able to finish the show, unfortunately. And it's interesting because there is part of a trend that people have picked up. A lot of theatre companies have toned down their marketing. As a result, they no longer want to advertise these shows as the best party of your life or dancing in the aisles and stuff like that, in case people actually
do
take it literally. I think it's interesting because back in the day, back in Shakespeare's day, people would not sit there listening attentively to the theatre. They'd be having arguments, they'd be talking, they'd be, chatting, all kinds of other things going on. So is this a return to that style of theatrical viewing? Probably not. It's probably just a few rowdy drunk people.
I mean, this is thing. I mean, there is nothing wrong with doing what most of us do, which is if we go to a musical that we know really well, we kind of sit there singing under our breath a little bit, singing along because we know all the words. That's different from caterwauling, belting it out, singing over the people on stage.
Yeah.
What you're not just ruining, you're ruining the performance's performance, and that's terrible. You're also all of the people who've paid to see the performer. You are ruining their night too. There is a real problem with drunkenness in the theatre. I do a lot of immersive theatre, which is the kind of where you don't just sit in a seat and have something performed to you, you have to interact. And, there has to be really conscious decisions made by those companies to manage drunkenness within that process so that everyone can have a good time, have fun, have a little drink, but not ruin the experience of other people. And that's where the balance has to come.
It's my absolute pet peeve. The last thing I went to see at the theatre was Pretty Woman, so we all know some Pretty Woman. We all know. So... And there was a group of women next to me who must have been absolutely smashed. And they were singing so loud you couldn't hear the singers on stage. And we'd spent a fortune on our tickets. It completely ruined our experience. So I totally... It's not karaoke, is it?
No, exactly.
You paid to see a show.
And you can go to... The Prince Charles Theatre in London does sing-alonger shows. And that's wonderful. It's a different experience from going to the theatre. And this is... if you want to do that, go to something like that.
For a brunch.
If you want to go to karaoke. But you are not just you are paying and ruining your own time, but you have to have respect for the people sat next to you in the audience.
And people were very annoyed by it. They were chanting out, out.
Really?
So it created a huge ruckus. So people weren't having it.
I mean, what's wrong with a bit of decorum? I hate to sound very old-fashioned, but if you go into the theatre and it's it should be a nice night, a fancy night out. It's a treat, isn't it?
Absolutely.
There should be a bit of decorum.
And, with my play, my last play, there was a bit of interaction. It was surprising how much, because there was an election process in it. Actually, you could feel the audience slightly taking sides, and it was very interesting as who was supporting which candidate and all of that sort of thing. But it was not done in such a way that it would have at all affected anybody else's experience. And if it had been, I'd have been the first one to chuck them out.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's a very fair point. Fraser, Emma, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
I'm sure you've got a view on that. GBViews at gbnews.uk. You've just got to not spoil it for everyone.
No,
You're there for the experience. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to be talking chocolate.
Yeah, we are.
We've got a chocolatier.
Yes, and you're going to be very happy because earlier Stephen did a shout-out asking whether or not he should eat chocolate. He is diabetic and you're on a diet, aren't you?
I know, it's diet I'm worried about.
Oh, it's diet you're worried about, yeah. And you said, he's on a diet, I feel very guilty having an egg today. And then he said, we're going to leave it up to you. Should I eat chocolate today or not? And overwhelmingly, look at all of these. Everyone's saying, Stephen, eat the chocolate. John, yes, Stephen, if we can't have a bit of chocolate when we get to our age, then what's the point?
Yeah.
Elle says, eat the chocolate, Stephen, in all capital letters.
David says, eat the chocolate. I should point out, Ellis, hi Ellis, says, no, Stephen, no chocolate, keep fit instead. But
that's the only
you're outnumbered.
But I will say, you've ruffled a few feathers over your butter.
Oh, have I?
Admission earlier. Yeah, he doesn't use real butter anymore. He's moved over to spread.
Spread.
Jules says, never substitute real butter for spreads. They're full of chemicals. Any doctor worth his salt will agree with me.
Well, they will, but have you seen the price of butter? Costs an absolute... Even the spreadable butter, which is sort of half and half, isn't it? That's through the roof. Costs a fortune.
Well, Pam's got an answer to that. She says, Stephen, how could you possibly give up on butter? I know it's horrendously expensive now, but there's no way you should give it up and use spread. Just cut back on something else and enjoy real, natural butter. Great show, love the banter.
Yeah, you go. No is the answer to that. No. I'm just going to have to...
I'm with you, though, Pam. You shouldn't. No.
Though I did buy, when we went up to Scotland, we had to get a few supplies in. I did buy some very cheap spread. It was like really, really cheap spread. And then when you put it on hot toast, it didn't melt. Now
Stephen, that's really bad.
Now that did worry me. It did worry me.
What's it made of?
I don't know. But it didn't melt on hot toast.
Well, that's a bit of a worry, isn't it?
And you want it to melt in. You want it to soak in.
I think you're best just to stick to your butter, darling, if you can.
No. Low-fat spread.
Angie says, happy Easter both. I'm having chocolate already. Well, do you know what? I've actually just pulled my Easter egg a little bit closer to me because I'm about to have mine as well. Stephen must have his underlined and in bold. Ellie, you talked about a black cab tour in Belfast that you did. I just tried looking online. There's nothing there. Can you provide a link? Literally, black taxi tours. Just Google it. I think it's the second one, Northern Ireland black taxi tours. That's the one I took. And I highly recommend if you're in Belfast.
There you go.
Really do. 25 years on from the Good Friday Agreement. It's a very good time to go.
Stephen has been, went for last year for the first time. Wonderful people, incredible architecture, Game of Thrones. I guess they film a lot of that there. Yeah, historic pubs and so much more. There you go. Plus, of course, you've got the Titanic. I went a couple of years ago to the Titanic Museum.
I tell you about that, yeah.
Did you go?
I did. Very moving,
fabulous.
Beautifully done.
Absolutely
recommend
amazing.
That as well. The black taxi tour and Titanic Museum.
This all goes pear-shaped for you, which I think it probably will. You could have a job in Northern Ireland Tourist Office.
Yeah, I could.
There you go.
I like it.
Yeah.
I recommend.
We've got lots more still to come for you after your weather.
Hello there, very good morning to you. I'm Jonathan Vautry here with your latest weather update from the Met Office. After a good amount of fine weather throughout the Easter weekend so far, there are just a few changes as we head into the second half, and it's due to these weather fronts that are slowly pushing their way in from the Atlantic. High pressure is still keeping them at bay for the moment, but we are seeing a squeeze in the isobars, and that is certainly helping to pick up the wind, particularly through the North Channel and across northwest Scotland, where we could see some gales developing throughout today. There is a bit of low cloud first thing across eastern areas of England and up into Scotland as well. That will just take a little bit of time to gradually clear its way off, but hopefully some sunny spells will develop into the afternoon. Further west, the sunshine will probably turn a bit hazier as we head into the afternoon as well. We see some high base cloud rolling in, and despite the breeze, temperatures will be climbing above average for the time of year, so highs of 16 to 18 degrees Celsius. It's into the overnight period where we see that weather front gradually push its way across all areas of the UK. So some heavier bursts of rain possible for Northern Ireland, Scotland, into Northern England, and again it will be quite windy around the coasts here. More patchy outbreaks of rain for Wales and then into other areas of England as we move throughout the night as well. With all the cloud and the breeze, temperatures won't drop off too far at all, and most of us will be holding up around 7 to 9 degrees Celsius. First thing on Monday morning then, it will be quite a soggy and wet start for central southeastern areas of England, and that rain could just take a little bit of time before it eventually clears its way off. Behind that, the day will turn into one of sunny spells and scattered showers for many of us, but those showers could certainly be heavy in places, and there is the risk of some hail and thunder in the mixture. Where you're in, some of the sunnier spells still reaching highs of 12 to 14, 16 degrees Celsius at the best, maybe. Otherwise, it is set to turn into a bit of an unsettled weekend to come, with further outbreaks of rain and strong winds at times. Temperatures will also be sliding their way off as we head towards Wednesday.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m.
as we debate the week's stories.
Right, folks, that was a spicy one, wasn't it?
With us four, plus a special guest.
Sometimes she has to stick her foot in it. Sometimes she has to say things as they are.
Sometimes I think we should keep the refugees and send the pensioners to Rwanda. Then we'd be in a much better state.
Well, Benjamin, that is...
The Saturday 5.
Saturday nights from 8.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Co.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions are, those days are gone, I can tell you.
She's only teasing. Go on.
He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Co. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got a brand new lineup every Saturday night on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today. Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m.
as we debate the week's stories. With us four, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight. Brand new Saturday nights on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Rishi Sunak pledges to fulfil the promises of the Good Friday Agreement ahead of its 25th anniversary.
Good morning to you. It's 9 o'clock on Sunday, the 9th of April. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Ellie. Here are your top stories this morning.
Well, the Prime Minister is preparing to welcome President Biden to Belfast this week as he seeks to secure a better future for Northern Ireland. The commemorations come amid a heightened terror threat, with police remaining on high alert.
The King, the Queen Consort and senior royals are due to gather at Windsor Castle for the first Easter Sunday service of Charles's reign. The sermon is also expected to honour the late Queen, with this Easter Sunday the first to take place since her death.
And of course, it wouldn't be Easter Sunday without a bit of chocolate, because today is the day you can crack open the eggs. Not beforehand. If you've had one yesterday,
Naughty.
We're going to meet an artisan chocolatier who's going to share her sweet secrets of success by feeding us.
Yay!
Hopefully. She's in the green room now, ready, so I hope you brought lots of chocolate with you, madam.
We are hearing whispers of 2 very large eggs.
Oh,
so
really?
I really hope they've got our names in them. Literally and figuratively. As long as I can eat something, I don't mind. I'm starving.
You eat a lot of food.
I do. And I love chocolate. It's very bad. My brother, if he's watching, he always says my diet is chocolate and salads. That's the way it goes.
Oh, really?
So it is balanced, but it's...
well,
you like it like that.
Sort
but,
of. If you're like Ellie, then get in touch. GBNews at gbnews.uk. Now, Rishi Sunak is continuing his preparations for the visit of President Biden to Northern Ireland to mark 25 years of the Good Friday Agreement.
The Prime Minister is planning on using the President's visit to drum up long-term investment for the nation and improve business relations.
Well, there is some optimism then, but despite all of that, the Police Service of Northern Ireland is warning of the potential of dissident Republican attacks on police officers.
Well, joining us now for more analysis of this is the Associate Politics Editor at the Daily Telegraph, Christopher Hope, who's actually covering Camilla Tominey's show in just about half an hour's time. And Christopher, of course, you're going to be focusing a lot on this significant anniversary.
It's a huge moment, 25 years since the Good Friday Agreement. Of course, Joe Biden touches down in Belfast middle of next week. We'll see Rishi Sunak on the runway to welcome him. It matters so much to all of us, really, that the peace has been maintained for so long over the past 25 years. Big issues, though, for Rishi Sunak. He just signed his Windsor Framework deal just a few weeks ago, of course, against some concerns, notably from the Democratic Unionist Party and around 24 or so Tory MPs, because what that means is there are no institutions up and running. The big thing that the Good Friday Agreement was meant to establish were the institutions' power-sharing agreements. That hasn't happened yet, and it may not happen again, really, until the elections are held once again in Northern Ireland. So, although peace is secure, that's great, of course, hugely to be celebrated, and that's what they're marking next week. The democracy there is not really worked out properly, and that's the problem.
A huge issue, isn't it, that doesn't seem to be going anywhere, Christopher, at the moment. And I just wonder, at what point do you think the government is going to pull the trigger on saying we need assembly elections once again? This stalemate cannot continue.
There's no question that the lack of any kind of democratic oversight of what's happening in Northern Ireland is a real problem. You've got basically civil servants making spending decisions, and that's not great for anybody, because it means that the choices they're making are not necessarily aligned. They normally are aligned, but not necessarily aligned with what people want and can vote for in elections, and that's why it can't go on for a long time, and that's the big concern. But there's this problem with the Windsor Framework. It's not seen to be equitable yet by the DUP, and until both sides are happy, that's Sinn Féin and the DUP and the unionist side, then nothing can happen on terms of power sharing. And that's why I think it'll be difficult for Mr Sunak. He'll say to Joe Biden, look what I've done here. We're trying to move on here. We've got this new worked out agreement, of course, drawing up the Northern Ireland Protocol. That's what the framework affects. This is a part of the Brexit deal to leave the European Union. And that's what he's trying to work out and say, look, we're trying to get a deal for you. We're trying to make sure it works, but not just yet. And any support you can give will be helpful. I'm not sure, though, Joe Biden has any impact, really, on what the DUP think.
What do you think we can expect from Joe Biden this week, Christopher? Because he has been outspoken about Brexit, hasn't he? And a hard Brexit at that. He has been concerned about a divided Ireland. Do you think it's significant that he's here for this anniversary?
It certainly is. I mean, he does wear his Irish heart on his sleeve. That his family is from Ireland. If you look at the way he marked St Patrick's Day last month, it's a huge deal for him, and he wants to see peace in Northern Ireland. And of course, he thinks back to when Bill Clinton, helped broker that deal back in 1998, and that's why he's there. He sees the importance of it. There is some issue, I think, that he won't be coming to the coronation, now just 4 weeks away, but is going to spend quite a few days in Ireland, and one wonders why he can't do both, because the special relationship between the UK and America is important, and so is the Good Friday Agreement. But he's made a choice. He's sending his wife Jill Biden to the coronation. He won't attend, and I think that's disappointing, you might say, for the UK government, but they understand why. But I think he's going to be there trying to put his imprimatur on what peace matters, why it matters, and why it matters so much. In this, I'm covering for Camilla Tominey, who's away this week. We've got an interview coming up with Bertie Ahern and the former DUP leader on this programme, so that'll be excellent to hear that.
OK, lovely. Christopher, thank you very much indeed, and we'll catch you at 9:30.
Thank you.
Now, agri-tourism is on the up, and very shortly we're going to be taking you to a lamb farm, sheep farm? Farm. And we're going to meet some lambs, so we've got lots of that to look forward to. We've been talking about Easter Sunday, what everyone's plans are. Geraldine says, hi, love it when you two are together. Definitely go for the chocolate today, Stephen. It's only Easter once a year, so enjoy.
Yeah, I should give it all up and go lambing. Went lambing last year.
Did you? Was that really
lovely?
Cute?
It was really lovely. It was a lovely thing to do.
Do you get to cuddle them?
Yeah, the ones that are a couple of days old.
Oh.
Obviously, you don't want to cuddle the freshly born ones.
I'm very much looking forward to seeing the lambs.
But it's yes. We can go lambing then, should we? Because it's all it's on the rise. The idea that you can actually go to these farms now, and of course they charge you a bit of money to go in. It's where they make a bit more cash, isn't it? And sort of get involved in the whole lambing process a little bit. Let's catch up with our Scotland reporter, Tony Maguire. Right, you've won our hearts. Tell us where you are and what's going on, Tony.
Hello, I'm at Kilmacombe Farm Tours today, and as you were just talking about, agritourism is really on the rise in Scotland, no more so than during the Easter break. Now, I'm joined by Wendy McDougall, who is the farmer here at Muirhouse Farms, and obviously the tour operator for Kilmacombe Farm Tours. Hello, Wendy, thank you for joining me this morning. Who have we got here?
Good morning. Yes, this is one of our motherless lambs that are joining us this morning. They're very cuddly and they love to meet the public.
And tell me, groups come here and obviously the experience, especially at this time of year, kind of the lambing, you've had quite a few born. How many would you say that have been given birth over the last couple of days alone?
Yeah, we're lambing 420 North Country Cheviots, which are a hill breed, and they were expecting 644 lambs.
Wow.
They're all at the point of drop at the moment, and I had a set of twins at 5:30 this morning, and we've just had a single lamb born about an hour ago.
And that's the wee one. We'll definitely try and get you some more shots of the wee lambs later on. And tell me, when the public come here and the experience, I mean, we've got a tour about 9-10 o'clock this morning, is that right? Tell me, what is their day like when they head into the farm?
So when they arrive, we take them over to the purpose-built reception area, and we carry out a 10-minute overview of the farm, the history and how we came about and why we farm the way that we do. And then we come on round and we look at the pen of sheep who are still expecting twins. Sometimes they're fortunate to see a live birth, and then we take them up all the individual pens with the brand new born lambs, so they're all within a day or two old. and then they go round and they can go in. We've got a potato box that they can go in 2 at a time, and they get to play with these motherless lambs.
We've had obviously we're fighting a wee bit with the sound this morning. There's quite a lot of wannabe stars or news presenters, I think, of the fluffy and woolly variety here. And tell me, with this wee one here, what is their outlook like over the next kind of couple of months? When do they move from inside to outside?
Yeah, so these guys are only on a diet of milk at the moment. And once they get a month or 2 old, they will go outside. We'll still give them some milk, but they'll be nibbling onto grass. Some of the older lambs that we've got indoors at the moment are being offered hay, just to start their digestive system going. So the public also get to feed the lambs, and then we talk about how we try and give them a new mother. So we adopt them onto new mums.
Because some lambs, obviously, are born in triplets, and you were saying that sheep can only really kind of mother 2 at a time, is that right?
That's correct, yeah. Here we never leave a sheep with triplets. We'll leave her with a pair, and generally there's either one slightly larger or slightly smaller, and we'll take that and hand rear it, because a sheep only has 2 teats, and while she could sustain feeding them while they're small, once they get a bit larger and more demanding, there's generally one gets pushed out to the side and just doesn't do.
Well, it sounds like, you know, if you would like an opportunity to come in and cuddle some lambs, then Kilmacombe Farm Tours, or certainly any of the agritourism destinations that are popping up around Scotland, seem like a really fantastic place to come and spend. So we're going to say goodbye to this little one just now, and certainly as the day progresses, I hope that you stick with us as we get up to close with some of the mums-to-be and the new mums here at Kilmacombe Farm Tours.
And Tony, are you going to get a chance to have a cuddle?
Yeah, put that mic on the floor and have a cuddle.
Have a cuddle.
We want to see. Go on.
They're asking if I can have a wee cuddle. Would you think I could have a wee cuddle of this one?
Oh, here we go. It's live telly.
There you go. There you go. And I tell you what, it may be a hard-nosed reporter, but look at the face on that Tony Maguire there.
Brilliant, Tony. Thank you so much. That is
perfect.
That's what you want.
Lovely. See, that's the best part. Look at him.
Oh, and look how happy he is.
It's so therapeutic, that.
Oh, brilliant.
Fabulous.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
That's what you want on Easter Sunday.
You see, he tries to be all tough. I'm doing a serious story here, but just hold on to the lamb, and his face lights up.
Well, he wanted to. He was giving it a little stroke, wasn't he, as he was trying to talk to us, and then we thought...
Fabulous.
Ditch the microphone, have a cuddle.
You see, that's what it's all about. And so if there's anywhere near you that is doing a lambing season at the moment and you can go, I know it does cost 5 or 6 quid to get in.
So worth it.
Well, I know people are tight for money, but if you can get in and have a little cuddle, especially if you're feeling a bit down or a bit lonely or something this Easter, it will lift your soul. It'll do you good. Just don't go home and have a lamb roast.
I was about to say, and then the irony is lots of people will be eating lamb today. But anyway, maybe we won't go there.
No, let's not.
Circle of life.
Yes.
That's what it's all about, hey? It's spring. There's a spring equinox somewhere.
It's like being sat next to Elton John. Yes, all right. Anyway, we're talking chocolate in a minute. So...
Also brings us lots of joy.
It does, it does. We'll see you in just a sec.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things. We've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m.
as we debate the week's stories, controversies and issues.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
It's 5 times the opinion, 5 times the debate,
and 5 times the fun.
The Saturday 5. Saturday nights from 8.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You could wink at the end.
I can't
Britain's
wink.
listening.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Welcome back and happy Easter. You are watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Ellie.
Now, have you ever tried to make your own chocolate? Got to be honest, I don't think I'd know where to start making chocolate. Many shops have been reporting that Easter eggs and other Easter treats have been in short supply. But how difficult is it to create your own chocolate delight?
Well, joining us now is the artisan chocolatier Liza Green. Lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for coming into the studio. And look at these incredible treats in front of you.
Got to be honest, they don't look like chocolate.
Oh, well.
They look like art.
Thank you, that's very kind. Well, hopefully they taste as good as they look.
They look incredible. So tell us your story then, because you actually used to work in telly, didn't you? And then you became a chocolatier.
I did. Well, I am half Belgian, so chocolate runs through my veins. It's part of my genetic makeup. And I was hooked on chocolate making when I visited a local chocolate factory when I was about 16 and started dabbling in it. I used to revise for my exams in the morning and make chocolates in the afternoon. Oh. And it kind of got put on hold because I went and did an English degree. I worked for the BBC for a long time, which was great because I moved around for departments. And then I worked in video on demand. And it's really before the lockdown, I started to refocus on what was really a passion. And I started doing little fairs. We started the website. And during the pandemic, it was a chance to really develop a product because there was nowhere to go and nothing to do apart from sit at home and develop chocolate.
How do you make chocolate? We all know how to make things with chocolate, but how do you actually make the stuff in the first place?
Well, the chocolate, the coating, so the coloured bits on the outside, I make through tempering chocolate that I buy in from Belgium. So it's all finest Belgium chocolate. and one tempers it, moulds it, decorates it, and then I make all the fillings. So it's all made by hand at the moment in my kitchen.
Tempering chocolate, that's when it goes very shiny, isn't it?
Yes.
But hasn't it got to be heated to a specific temperature and then reduced and all that sort of thing?
It's very temperamental, very temperamental. It has to be heated up, cooled down, and reheated again. And chocolate is very, very sensitive. It doesn't like heat, it doesn't like moisture, doesn't like cold. Ideally, you know, it needs to be kept at a temperature of about 18 degrees. So last summer, when I had chocolate orders, my cooling fridge broke down. I had no aircon, and outside it was 30 degrees. It was challenging.
And you're doing this all at home?
Yes.
Amazing. How are you managing that in a kitchen?
Well, I make everything in small batches because it really is artisan. I make the chocolates in the kitchen. My husband packages them up and walks into the post office. And my chief tester is my 11-year-old son, obviously. And we're doing very well. We're developing. It's very much a labour of love. And it's a quality product. We're very proud of it.
So, right, is there a difference between... We all like a bit of chocolate. Is there a significant difference between your standard bar of chocolate that you would buy and something that has been produced in this artisan way?
It's a bit like wine or coffee. You can go to a supermarket and buy, you know, a £5 bottle of wine and it will be fine. It's wine. You can buy a bar of chocolate and it will taste great. But if you are into chocolate or into wine or into coffee, there is a difference. It's not just about... Obviously, it's about the taste, but it's about the look and it's about the design as well.
It's the look that I have to say, because that's... it doesn't look like chocolate at all. They look like ornaments.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
It's phenomenal. I hate to say it, can we...
Oh, of course.
Stephen's like, come on.
Yeah,
of course.
He wants...
So,
I want to...
Of course. So these are coloured salted caramel mini eggs.
Hold these in front of us. So these are salted caramel, you said?
That's right.
They're dusted with, like, a gold...
They are. They are hand dusted. A bit like blusher.
They do look like art, don't they? They're like...
Do they taste like art?
Right, ready? Oh, I was going to cheers. Come on.
Oh.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Wow.
That caramel...
Is it good?
...is unbelievable. It's got that proper sort of smoky...
Yes.
I don't know. It's not like caramel you get anywhere else.
Well, I think because the ingredients are very fresh and they have a limited shelf life. You know, they don't stay on shelves for very long. They all get gobbled up.
No, I bet they don't.
And
be eaten quick. Do you find in the cost of living crisis where I'm struggling now?
Passing them down. Let's have a
No, I'll pass them down.
Oh, wait.
Come
you
on.
want some more?
And this is more of a mixed box for spring, summer. So
wow.
I've done quite summery flavours like passion fruit and strawberry and champagne and mango.
See that? I mean, look at that.
It looks like a bowling ball. It's got that wonderful sheen.
It's the gloss on it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I like this one. This one looks like a Milky Way or a Mars. Or...
Which one is that?
This one.
That is rhubarb and vanilla.
Yeah, I'll be trying that one. There you go. What did you get?
I don't know what flavours are these ones.
Oh, wow. That is incredible. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. And you can tell it's good when it's gone silent in the studio because we're enjoying the taste.
Oh, that's so creamy.
Do you find, in the cost of living crisis, which I was trying to ask before we continued to stuff our faces, people are still buying luxury chocolate like this when money's tight?
Yes, I think they are. It's a limited market, but I think when people are struggling and the cost of everything is going up significantly, I think it's nice to have a treat. So it's not the kind of thing you would go and buy every day. But if you wanted to mark a special event or you wanted to celebrate someone's birthday with a special gift, then I think people do buy them. But again, it's like coffee or it's like wine or cheese. You know, you can go to the supermarket and buy cheese, or you can go to a more specialist shop and buy something much nicer. So I think for an event, yes, definitely there is still a market there.
It's nice to be able to...
He's still going over here.
I'm trying not to be a pig, but not successfully. What's quite nice, I've just had a dark chocolate mint.
Oh, yes. Oh, good, you tasted the mint. Good.
He's getting across the products.
Well, yes, I can be your taste tester. I mean, what I like that is it's actually something that you don't want to shove it all in your mouth. You actually want to properly taste it.
Yeah.
Because it's an entirely different experience.
Good.
Oh, wow.
It is absolutely beautiful. Where can people find you?
Well, I sell primarily online, and they can find me at lisagreenchocolates.co.uk, and we have our spring-summer collection available for order.
Yes. Wow. And any eggs left, or have they all gone now?
Eggs have gone, I'm afraid.
Well,
so
I'm not surprised.
the remaining eggs are especially for you.
Oh, that's very,
Really?
very kind.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, look, he's delighted.
I'm very... Well, I've never seen anything like it. It looks like you could put it up in your kitchen.
Can we see these eggs?
Yes, of course.
Down to us and we'll show.
Yeah. So
They're like ornaments. They're so beautiful.
This one has edible gold on, so...
Wow, I like the look of that one.
It's an investment piece.
And this looks like a really...
This is more like a starscape.
Yeah.
And it's...
Stephen likes space. I think this one's for you.
I just think that, I mean, they're real pieces of art. It's almost a shame to eat them, though they will get eaten.
Of course they will, yeah.
Lovely. It's been really fascinating to meet you. Thank you
Pleasure.
very much
Thank
indeed.
you for having me.
You love and respect for chocolate and all of that, I can tell you. That is it from us, but Christopher Hope is sitting in for Camilla Tominey. Morning, Christopher.
Good morning and happy Easter Sunday. Good morning and happy Easter Sunday. This is Christopher Hope filling in for Camilla Tominey. Now, it might be parliamentary recess behind me, but it's been a busy week in politics. We've got a packed show coming up for you. I'll be speaking to Douglas Ross, the leader of the Scottish Tory Party. We'll be hearing from Alan Smith, the Bishop of St Albans, the man who convenes the bishops in the House of Lords. And 25 years on from the Good Friday Agreement, we'll show you an exclusive interview between Arlene Foster, the former Northern Ireland First Minister, and Bertie Ahern, Ireland's former Taoiseach, when the agreement was signed. So get over your chocolate coma after that. Don't go anywhere.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my